Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning, and welcome back to those of you who took off the 4th of July week. Many of you did, although I'm sure some people disappeared on the 3rd and used the 4th, took the 5th, and are still gone now. And you know what they're going to miss? They're going to miss the Summer League. Yes, the Utah Jazz getting ready to host their Summer League. 3 games here before everything shifts down to Las Vegas. And we're going to talk basketball with David Locke coming up later this hour. First, though, we're going to start with hockey. Chris Armstrong introduced as the new president of hockey operations, and here he is meeting the media for the first time in Utah.
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, finally get the opportunity to meet you, and I'm certainly looking forward to getting to know each of you better as we go along here. Just wanted to open with a few comments, thank yous. In fact, thank you to Ryan and Ashley Smith and Smith Entertainment Group for the opportunity to lead this organization forward. I've known Ryan for over a decade now, and never did I think that our relationship would lead to this place, and feel extremely fortunate and grateful for the opportunity, something that I have a great passion and connection to, something that, a couple of years ago was just an idea that we were able to bring to fruition, and the opportunity to see that through and be the custodian of that community asset for Utah here in Salt Lake City. Is something I'm really excited about and looking forward to. My wife Abigail's here. We're thrilled to move from LA. We're already here. We took our apartment earlier this week, and I'm excited to be a member of this community and to help build something extremely special for this fan base and for this state. So I also want to acknowledge where I came from. And so with great thanks to Casey Wasserman, the experiences and opportunities that he gave me over the last 14 years really shaped the person and the career that I've had. And without that, I wouldn't have an opportunity like this. I wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet people like Ryan and Ashley Smith over time. So I wanted to acknowledge that here. And also, I've had the great opportunity where we're doing everything in a much accelerated fashion, given the circumstances here of obtaining this franchise and moving it forward for October the 8th, our exciting opening night. But I've had this great opportunity to get to know some really special people in a short period of time, starting with our GM, Bill Armstrong, who I think has done just an unbelievable job and doesn't get enough credit for how he handled the uncertainty and the difficult times that the team faced over the last few months and really provided that guidance and stability to the group and to move them forward, to continue to move the organization forward. And I want to recognize that a lot of work was done long before Smith Entertainment Group arrived with this opportunity. And a lot of work has been done since. And Bill has been unwavering in his leadership. Coach Bear has been, an unbelievably stable force with our players. And I think that needs to be recognized, because for what we're trying to do, under the circumstances that we're doing it and the timeline that we're doing it, you need quality people in leadership positions. And that was certainly something we recognized early in this process, is that we had that. And if we can give them the support and resources to help the team reach its full potential, I think we're going to be very successful in a short period of time, and that's what gets us really excited. Having just been through my first draft with the group, I want to say that I was extremely impressed by the leadership of our amateur scouting group led by Daryl Plandowski and Ryan Jankowski. Got an opportunity to see the staff that Bill, Daryl, and Ryan have assembled together, the collaboration, the communication, the camaraderie between that group was really impressive for us to bear witness to. And I'm not surprised by the exceptional results that we had in the draft and the results predating our involvement with the team in the last several years of making some unbelievable draft selections that we got to see firsthand in development camp up in Park City this week. And then, obviously also got to see and observe Bill's process in executing the trades for Mikhail and John, who are great additions to our group, allow us to move forward, but preserve the opportunity for some of our young players to take that step forward this year. I think was excellent for me to see as well. Our head of pro scouting, Alan Heppel, and the staff that he and Bill have assembled together, world class. Again, got to be in the trenches with them, see that process. We feel very confident about the people that we have the good fortune to now work with and call members of our organization, and that gives us great optimism moving forward. So that's it for me, and happy to take questions.
Chris, Alex still up with the hockey news. Good to see you again. Chris, just take us back. So, I mean, like you said, you know, Casey Wasserman was the one that gave you the opportunities all those years ago, and Ryan Smith and Ashley Smith have given you this chance now to be a part of this special organization. Can you just talk about how your kind of your opportunity, what kind of was the first opportunity that you kind of got an inkling, like, okay, maybe this might lead me to a place one day where I might be a part of an NHL franchise?
Alex, I think that's a good question. You know, I don't think I ever allowed myself to see this necessarily this end result, right? What I would tell you is this kind of goes back a couple years after Ryan and Ashley had acquired the Jazz. And we were actually all on a flight together with Danny Ainge. At the time, Ryan was recruiting Danny to the Jazz, and we were talking about a whole host of topics, including the potential for the Olympics to come here. And Ryan asked me for my perspective on hockey. He was starting to develop this interest for hockey and had this idea that it could be quite complementary to what Smith Entertainment Group was trying to build for Utah. Winter sport, fast-growing, emerging young market, and asked me, knowing my connection and passion and background in hockey, what my perspective was. And that really started to snowball. First, he got Danny done, which was an important and key step to bring DA to Utah, which we all benefit from. And then we started to go down this path of exploration with the National Hockey League to see what their interests might look like in the future for expansion and what opportunities there might be for Utah to be a part of that conversation. And it was clear to me from the very first meeting we had with the commissioner, Commissioner Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, that they could see the dynamicism of Ryan from an ideas perspective, from an energy perspective. I know leaving that meeting that they saw the potential in Ryan as an owner and what he could bring to the league. And frankly, you know, my context in that meeting as his friend, it gave me great enthusiasm for what he was going to turn that meeting into one day. For me, this is what I would say, it's a dream scenario to work in hockey, period. Anybody in our organization would tell you that. All of our players would tell you they're living their dream of playing in the National Hockey League. I'm living my dream of working in the National Hockey League. There's no doubt about that. But what I would tell you, what drew me to this opportunity, and this is probably the only opportunity that would have caused me to leave Wasserman, frankly, was the opportunity to work with SEG, the opportunity to work with not only Ryan and Ashley, but Chris Barney, our Chief Commercial Officer for the Jazz and for Utah Hockey Club, Caroline Klein, our Head of Communications, Jim Olson, the President of the Jazz, John Larson, our CFO. These are all outstanding, first-class people. Ryan brings a tech entrepreneur, dynamic energy to the workplace at SEG, which I could feel from day one. And that's, as much as anything else, what drew me to this opportunity, is to be part of that group and to help drive the ambitions of that group, the objectives, not just for Utah Hockey Club, but for Utah, for Salt Lake City, for what the Delta Center can become, for what the Utah Jazz can become. The opportunity to get in the trenches with those kinds of people and achieve something unique and special is something that everybody here, I think, should view as a great opportunity to be a part of. There's going to be exceptional things happening in this market for many years to come. I think it's going to reshape the landscape here, and I think the rest of North American professional sports is going to take great notice of what's happening here.
Welcome, Chris. Matt Coma from the NHL.com. Just getting things started here, what are some of the goals or accomplishments do you like to see in your first year here with the Utah program?
Well, we want to establish an immediate connection, which we're already feeling from this local market and community. First and foremost, if your question is on the ice or off the ice, maybe it's both. On the ice, we want to continue to take steps forward, obviously. We want to be a team that brings maximum effort to our fan base every single night and that continues to take steps towards its potential each and every day. Whether that's practice or whether that's in games, our fans in Utah are not going to be shorted on effort. That is very clear, spending any amount of time with Coach Bear, and that is certainly clear from the top down with Bill's leadership as our GM and the expectations that he's set throughout the organization. Off the ice, we want to maximize the fan experience. With, we're obviously renovating this building in a pretty significant way to make it optimized for hockey, and that's going to take some time. So in the meantime, we want to be able to get as creative as we can to create the best fan experience possible and get as many people in this building in the interim as possible. There's a lot of conversation about the partial view seats, limited view, obstructed, whatever you want to call them. I see that as an opportunity to get people in the building at an affordable price point, expose them to hockey, expose them to the energy of this environment, and create, hopefully, fans for life. So for us, those are the immediate objectives. Obviously, we've had unbelievable results on the ticketing side already, unbelievable positive results on sponsorship. There's more to come in that regard in the next several weeks. Chris Barney and his team have done an unbelievable job in that respect. And so we want to create an environment where our players have all the support, all the resources they need to keep moving forward.
Do we have any other questions for Chris?
For just speaking on the on-ice stuff, going through the draft process and seeing these guys up at camp, if you've had an opportunity to see these guys, what is your first reaction to these prospects that you've brought in this week?
Great excitement, for sure. As I say, there's a lot of work that's been done for a number of years to assemble this group of prospects and the roster that will be receiving in training camp in September, which will come quickly, believe me. I think we've got unbelievable size and speed and most importantly, high character people. These kids have been great this week, getting to know them in Park City, their work ethic, their enthusiasm, the way they're bonding and connecting. We're really excited. As Ryan has said publicly, when we went through this process, it came back to the people, right? The opportunity here was to acquire a first-class roster, an amazing group of prospects, and obviously certainly significant draft capital, but most importantly, amazing people from the hockey operations department to the coaching staff. I mean, I want to recognize Erin Bolello too, who's our executive of hockey operations and executive assistant of hockey operations. She's been unbelievable under incredibly tough circumstances, relocating all these players, relocating our hockey operations staff, working closely with our team at SEG. Putting on development camp, helping to execute this game today. That's what we acquired in our view, is those high quality people. And if we can give those people the additional support and resources to do their jobs, they're going to execute in a phenomenal way.
Chris, of course, I've been around you a couple days now in Park City and been around you today, obviously. And I also got a chance to listen to Ryan's press conference before the NHL draft last week, and he really talked about how he saw you and him and Bill Armstrong as business partners. He doesn't see you as a president of hockey ops, or he doesn't see Bill as the GM, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For him to say that, like, what does that say about the work you guys have done so far and the vision you guys all share in the front office as a hockey operations team?
Well, I think, Alec, for us to reach the goals that we have for this organization, which is obviously to win the Stanley Cup and the ability to do that more than once, is that we all are, if we're all aligned with the same objective and the same goal, then we're partners in that effort, right? And so there's no job too big or too small for anybody in this organization. If it helps us to take a step forward, then the expectation is that we're going to do it. And we're going to do it together. And we're going to have tough conversations, and we're going to make ourselves better from having those difficult and tough conversations. I think that speaks to the the way that this ownership group, I think, is going to try to do things a little bit differently than other organizations, and that's where we see the opportunity. Is let's take our own unique and novel approach towards this, right? We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but let's take this opportunity to set things up the way that we think it can be successful and do that from day one.
There's Chris Armstrong, president of hockey operations for the Utah Hockey Club. When we come back, RSL, 5 goals and another win at home. You'll hear from Pablo Mastroeni after the win next. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Real Salt Lake tied 1-1 with Atlanta at the half. Breaks it open in the second half. Scores on a couple set pieces. Ends up putting 5 goals on the board, which is like the third time they've done that at home. They beat Atlanta 5-2. Now they head out on the road for 3 in a row. But first, Pablo Mastroeni after the game in his post-game media press conference.
Playing 100%. What was the halftime talk, and what changes did you see necessary in order to see the success that you saw in the second half?
Yeah, I thought we were very laborsome with our possession across the back. That usually ended up going back to Gavin. And it's twofold. One, we're not scanning well enough before we receive the ball, and we're trying to make our decision when we touch the ball, right? And if you want to gain any kind of advantage, you have to know where you're going before you get the ball. Spaces close quick, especially in the first half, because every team has energy. The other part of that was we weren't moving their defensive block. So we played we played with the 3 center backs, didn't shift them to one side. So again, rotations are useful because it forces the whole block to move to one side. We were playing in a space of, I don't know what it was, 45 yards. And so your block just moves here and it moves here. Second half, we were able to get to the touchline, get to the other touchline, and now gaps start opening up centrally to be able to penetrate. And I think that was the most important thing. The other part, and what we've been talking about is, and I say this all the time, is that we haven't achieved anything. Right, I think we're a really good team, but I think our greatest impediment to where we want to go is ourselves and the ego. Right, you saw in the first half a bunch of players after we scored the goal playing as individuals. When we're at our best, we're playing as a team, and what you saw in the second half, the ball's moving, people are making selfless runs beyond to pull the team back. The tempo is different. Right, and so I think it's a little bit of all that. Tactically, it was we just weren't moving their block. I think it was more for me, it was the psychological piece that really is like, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. We got 45 minutes, and I told them, I said the soccer gods are on our side, because with that performance, you're still in this game, and now we got to capitalize. These moments come very few in a season. We got to put our stamp on this game, go out with the right mentality, move the ball quick, have better reactions when we turn the ball over, and defend like we want to win the ball. And again, credit goes to the guys for we can talk about it all we want, but it's really about execution. And the guys found solutions to problems on the field. And I think that's a big step for our group, because we can talk about it in training, we can talk about it in the recap, but when you make the biggest gains in your career as an individual and a collective as a team is when you're solving problems in real time, because you know that first half wasn't good enough.
Pablo, did you sub Nelson Palacio on at halftime because of his range of passing, his ability to, as you say, move the ball sideline to sideline with just one quick 40-yard pass? That
was a part of it. Again, I felt like, there's so many variables to all this stuff, but I just felt like Emeka and Ojeda looked a little bit fatigued, right? It was real laborsome in the movements to find pockets. And then when we got pockets, taking too many touches to get the ball and break lines again. So it was more I just felt like freshening it up. And given that we just played a couple days ago and the guys put in a fantastic effort and one of our highest, outputs, that was, so bringing Brody in, who can break lines off the dribble, bringing Nelson in, who's got a range of passing, I think helped us get to the more dangerous positions that we were able to achieve in the second half.
It's not official, but the news has leaked out, and a lot of people have heard that Diego Luna isn't going to the Olympics. Any accident that he had a goal and 3 assists? Can you connect those two things?
It's just, again, I think it's just, what do they call it, poking the bear, you know? Like, I think he plays with, he's a player that plays with a chip on his shoulder. And tonight, in particular in the second half, again, was doing a lot of selfless running. And the goal that he scores is everything that we've been talking about, is not drifting off and dropping in the midfield to get the ball. It's putting yourself in a position to score goals. And so I think tonight, you know, what was it, a goal and 3 assists. So credit to Diego for his endeavor and really his quality. And again, selfishly for me and the rest of our team, we got a top caliber player that's going to be available for the next run of games.
On the goal Katrana scored, was that off the training ground, or was that just two guys saw an opportunity and took it?
That was me telling Alex to get to the left side and Luna playing him a good ball. Well, I did tell him that, but it wasn't from an attacking standpoint. It was, he's a left back, and why are you going to go to the right side and have to recover diagonally in this minute of the game? And so it was a defensive setup, but it was Alex's execution.
There you go. Chicho gets his 17th goal. He's been on 16 for a while, and he had 3 good chances against Houston. What did it mean to him and to the guys to see him tie the club record?
Yeah, no, I think, there's always these runs of games where, he's just not going to score every game. And I think he was putting a lot of pressure on himself in the last few games to really find that goal. Credit to Ant and Chicho. Chicho's always trying to find plays on set pieces to find space, the two of them did a great job of identifying it. Great delivery, and he's a killer in front of goal. And so I think you can breathe, and not the pressure is lessened, and now he can play more free. But just super super excited for him. And I know what that does to the rest of the group as well. And you see it in all the sports when the big guys, putting balls in the back of the net, everyone else feels like they're 2 inches taller than they really are. So, again, super happy for Chicho.
What did you think of Brian Vera's performance since he hadn't trained with the team for 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was a dicey call, I think. The decision was based on the fact that we have 3 games coming up. And we've been without Jay Glad and Vera now for a few games. And Oviedo and Bodie have done a fantastic job. It's not easy in this league to play a different position, against the opponents that we play against and play as well as they have. But the thought was, get him 60 minutes this game, have a good week of training, and now he's at least from his own psychological standpoint, he can now get it done, and he can play 90 next week in lieu of a 3-game week. But I thought his performance was really good. I mean, he's been literally training on a treadmill for 10 days, and that is not football. That's making sure your heart's still working. So the decisions that he made, the positions that he took, I thought were really good, and I think it shows growth from his level of professionalism to be able to come back in and contribute the way he did.
You have seen these teams sitting really compact against you, and Montreal, the Galaxy, you got the early goal in this one. Those ones were shutouts. Is that something the club has to continue to work on? Is that a little bit of an Achilles heel right now?
Yeah, again, I think it goes, ball speed is huge. The tempo of the way we play is huge. So again, if they're just standing there, the tendency is to want to provoke. But we want to provoke with speed, and we want to provoke to get a forward to come to find our third center back, to then provoke 30 yards of space, to then play it out wide. We want to go with tempo. And again, those rotations are critical to move a low block. You have to rotate the ball, because teams that are going to sit are fine moving 15, 20 yards. What's really hard is moving 30, 40 yards. And the other part of that is, I think we have to do a better job of switching the point of attack. And more from when it comes to from our right side, and we have an overload on the right side, Alex is naked all the time. And if we can get that switch once or twice, now teams don't know, the right back on the weak side won't rotate as much. And when they don't rotate, now you have the central penetration. So you're always playing, you're jabbing with your left to set up your right. Right. And I think we just have to do a better job of that.
You mentioned earlier you thought the team was tired. I know people are waiting either for a ball over the top to Gomez or the ball played to his feet, and then he puts a move on somebody and blows by him. but he's played so many minutes. Do you still have that expectation for him, or?
No, and that's what we talked about at halftime. We need Crooksey to run behind. We need Diego Luna to run behind. And we need Chicho to run behind. It just can't be all Andres. And again, that's what I'm talking about playing for the team. If we have 11 guys coming back to the ball, they can condense their defensive block. They can squeeze it because they just know. And it's so easy to defend when some guy's receiving it with his back to goal. Now, you stretch them a couple times this way, stretch them a couple times this way. Those gaps will open up because they're fearful of the one behind that can actually punish them. So I think it's more of a collective. And what I've known with this group is that when everyone wants the ball at their feet, we end up playing like individuals and we take too many touches. It's when we play selflessly that we create space for our teammates, which then everyone scores goals and everyone is, the star. So it's really hitting on those type of things. And I think, just looking at the second half, I think it was a good example of what it looks like when we play as a team.
Yeah. A lot of teams do come in here and play this way. 3 road games in a week isn't ideal, but are you ready for a new set of problems and go out on the road?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think this job, from a coaching staff perspective, is all about solving problems. I think, and Chang said it best, teams scout us, we scout them. We are the ones that have to find solutions on the field. And there's going to be there's going to be a lot of problems in 3 games on the road. And if we have the right type of mindset, there's no doubt in my mind that I feel like we can come away with some results on the road.
Let's go to Sydney on Zoom.
Hey, Pablo. Sydney on MLSsoccer.com. Congrats on the win tonight. My question was actually about Diego. It was answered earlier, but, you mentioned he plays with a chip on his shoulder. You mentioned kind of a matter of poking the bear. I mean, what conversations did you have with him today, if any, about the reports? So they kind of trickle out.
Well, again, I had a conversation with Diego, and I give the same advice to every single player because, again, I can give advice through my experiences, but I have not walked a day in their shoes. And the only advice that I ever give players is, if I ask you to close your eyes in this moment, what do you feel? And that's really it. And I say, because again, at the end of the day, you have to be honest with you. You have to be true to yourself. There's no one else in this life that is more important than yourself, right? Because if you don't look after yourself, who does? And Diego, I'll let Diego speak to that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that was my advice to him: is that this is about you. This is not about, and then I'll let him. Again, speak to his decision. But again, I think Diego's a guy that's hungry. Diego's a guy that wants to play at the highest level. He holds himself to an extremely high standard and has been an integral part of everything that we've been able to achieve this year.
There's Pablo Mastroeni, DJ and PK, brought to you in part by America First Credit Union. Get the official debit cards of the Utah Jazz, University of Utah Sports, Real Salt Lake, and more exclusively at America First Credit Union. David Locke talking with PK and I, looking ahead to more off-season moves for the Utah Jazz. That is next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. David Locke joined us late in Friday's show for you early risers and those of you who were on vacation last week. Here's David Locke talking NBA off-season moves with PK and I on The Zone. Obviously, all of our listeners have read and heard a lot of speculation about will the Jazz move Markkanen? And the one thing we all know for sure is, well, if they do, Danny Ainge is going to back up the truck, and he's going to come back with players and picks, and it's got to look something like the Donovan Mitchell trade and the Rudy Gobert trade. Beyond that, do you have any idea where this is going? Of all the rumors you hear, do you think that's more likely, this is less likely? What do you think?
I think, Danny, I think you're correct. Danny's track record is pretty clear, right? And I think what's actually most clear about it is we'll think about the Jason Tatum, Markelle Fultz trade or the Donovan trade or the Rudy trade. But there's also, remember, this whole span of time where he's unwilling to trade those picks. Remember? Like, he won't trade for Jimmy Butler, and he doesn't trade for Paul George. So he's been very consistent in his career of having a price for something, believing that is the price, and then holding to that. Like, that's his signature. It's not that he's just always making deals, because he was really heavily criticized in Boston for having not made some, not pulled the trigger on some deals to get players. So it's turned out to be the Tatum and Brown picks, which he has now proven to be correct. He seems to be proven to be correct on most of these. I think we're in a similar situation. There is, the Jazz, I think the feeling, at least if you listen to most national commentators, and this might be accurate, I think the Jazz feel like that they probably can't have the same season that they had each of the last 2 years, where, you're 18 and 21 or 21 and 18, and then you pull the ripcord. And I think there's a little feeling of that's not a great spot to be. And from at least the commentators, I don't know if the Jazz feel that way. And so it's interesting to me of whether or not we, whether or not we can do that again. And if in any way that forces the Jazz hand, that they've gone big game hunting, as we say a few times, and haven't gotten Porzingis and Holiday and Bridges and free agency, and that therefore they just feel as though we're still 2 or 3 players away. And then that in turn means that the timeline's been backed up. And so there is a need to clear the deck so that, you have all your players on the timeline. I'm not a timeline believer, so I don't know if I believe that, but there is that argument.
Let me throw this at you and see what you think. That they've had discussions.
Hey, PK, how often does DJ bring up the fact that he's the one that asked the question that got the big game hunting, and then the real key answer about that the reason we don't empty the deck is because we want to be ready to run, and then the even more key answer that if we get to July without having got it, maybe we'll pivot. Like, how often does DJ bring up that he asked this question?
Actually, that press conference, he and I, we went over We went over questions to be asked. I think we did that on the air, if I remember correctly, DJ. We talked about questions to ask, and so when he asked those questions, we'd already discussed what questions needed to be asked. So I wasn't surprised at all, because we literally talked about that stuff, about what questions to ask, and they were like, the both of us just said, yeah, this and this and this needs to be asked. He was the one that asked them. So, he doesn't really brag on himself a lot.
I just thought, Jack. I do think it's one of the most. Sorry, I do want to hear what you had to say, PK. Sorry. I do think it's one of the great press conference answers, because it's incredibly revealing in the 3 areas to what, like when I hear people say there's no plan. No, Danny actually gave you the entire plan, one answer to a question. Like, we're going big game hunting. The reason we haven't emptied the coffers and just been terrible is because we want to be able to go get a player or two and be ready to go and not have to wait 3 more years, which I thought was really fascinating. And by the way, if we can't go big game hunting, then maybe we have to pivot at some point in time. And if we have to pivot, the only piece that's unclear is if we're pivoting, are we still staying in a situation where if we can go big game hunting, we're only 1 or 2 players away, or are we really going to the bottom?
Right. I got you.
All right. Sorry. I want to give DJ a little love.
Yeah, we talked.
I could feel his vibe that maybe he needed a little boost today.
Okay. To me, with this marketing stuff, is they've had discussions with, let's just say, 3-4 teams, and we know about the teams, and the Jazz have said, here's the price. They've had discussions. I believe if you're going to go with the Warriors, I got to have Kuminga. I have to have him, and then that's the starting point. If you're not willing to include him, then we don't really have a discussion. You include everybody else in their dog, but I got to have him. And then you can go on to OKC and the Spurs and so forth. And so at this point, it's just a question of, all right, I've got
parameters for each of these teams. Here's what we want. And if it's going to happen, you call me back. And if it takes a week or 2 or 3, we know with Mitchell, it was right before the players start to get together in Salt Lake and get to work out informally in preparation for training camp. So if he gets a call from one of these teams, this is what we want. And if they say yes, then they call him. And, okay, then we can begin to negotiate a deal. But if not, that's where we're at. And that, I think, without any particular inside information, that this is where they're at with this. What's your response to that?
I think that's probably pretty deduced, pretty logically. That makes sense. So, I think when people are dealing with Danny, they know that 5 million, because they can probably then ask for one more thing at the end. So I think, that makes total sense. Can we discuss Jonathan Kuminga for a second?
Please.
Go ahead.
So, I get it. Top 10 pick, 6'8", 225, total powerhouse. So, can you look at the shooting for me for a second?
David, you're very muffled. We can't hear you.
Sorry, can you look at the shooting for me for a second? Basketball reference. I think he takes 2 threes a game and makes. Am I better?
You're better. You're better now. You're better now.
Okay. I think he makes 2. I think he takes as a 3 or 4, and makes him a 32%. And was not a good shooter in the G League when he's done.
David, we're losing you again. You're going in and out.
Okay, let me switch.
Okay. Please switch. Please do. Technology. It's fantastic until it's not.
That's really weird. I'm literally walking back and forth on a block, and I've been walking the same exact spot every single time, so I don't know why.
You pacing.
Anyway.
We're all stunned by that development.
I know. Well, I'm staying. Thank you. I'm staying with the in-laws, and they're all still asleep. So I had to go out and get outside and walk around.
Yep.
I mean, for us, maybe we think Jonathan Kuminga is 22 years old, and if you're taking a shot at trying to find some really good players, I kind of get why we would want Jonathan Kuminga, kind of. I mean, I got to be honest, not like when PK says, I'd have to have Jonathan Kuminga, I'm like, I might actually have to have Moody or Podziemski, not Kuminga. I'm not actually convinced that Kuminga is the best of the 3 players. But I certainly wouldn't not go get Paul George for Jonathan Kuminga. Let me tell you. I'm lost on this. When did he become a star? And when did he actually become an NBA starter?
Is it about that, or is it about potential? It's not what they think he is today. It's what they think he could be in 3 years.
Okay. Let's just be all right. Let's be totally honest here for a second.
He might not be that in 3 years.
He's been in the league in 3. He's been in the league 3 year, right?
Yeah.
So if Taylor Hendricks, in his 3rd year of the NBA, shoots 2 threes a game and shoots 32%, how are you feeling about it?
Not good, because that would be a regression from what he's already doing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So just because you play for the Warriors doesn't mean you're good. I feel like there's a little bit of a market thing going on here. I always feel that a little bit with Knicks players, too, and sometimes Lakers players. You're in these big markets, and they get mentioned enough that everyone decides they're super good. Jonathan Kuminga is really talented. Don't misunderstand me. Top 10 pick. His body's amazing. His power is great. He is absolutely the script of players that don't make it in the NBA. They're overwhelming strength and power for when they're young. Suddenly they're playing guys as strong and they're not as good. But, I'm super lost on why Jonathan Kuminga would be a player you wouldn't trade for Paul George, and why Jonathan Kuminga would be the player we have to get if we're trading Lowry Markkanen. If the Warriors were holding out and saying you can have Podziemski and Moody and you get 3 first-round picks and a pick swap, but you can't have Kuminga, I'd be like, oh, come on, I have to. Okay, good, we'll do it.
Well, once they say you can't have Kuminga, that raises my antenna. Why are they saying you can't have Kuminga?
I'm lost on it. I think he's a nice player, but not if the Warriors roll out Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton, Andrew Wiggins, Lauri Markkanen, Draymond Green, Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, and some big. They're really good. Like,
Sixth
they're
in the
really
West?
good.
More than sixth in the West?
Yeah, I think I put him in the top 4. Klay Thompson wasn't great last year. They're not replacing – he was a 4-7 a game, but so is Lowry. Like, Lowry's the exact same. Lowry took more catch-and-shoot threes than Klay and hit them at a higher percentage last year. Lowry took the most catch-and-shoot threes of anyone in the NBA and is one of only 4 players in the NBA who took, I believe, 4 or more to make over 41%. And Steph Curry, Sam Hauser, and Malik Beasley are the others. Like, arguably, Lowry's top 5 shooter in the NBA. So you add Lowry, they get better at that because he always has his shooting window open, and there was garbage going on there at times last year.
If he's so good, why did Cleveland give him up?
They missed. And because they got Donovan, and Donovan's awesome. Donovan's super awesome. Maybe that's my point. Let's make sure that we actually give the that are super awesome all the credit in the world, and let's not make guys into being awesome that aren't.
Right, but when Markkanen was in Cleveland, he wasn't super awesome.
Yeah, well, Chicago really mishandled him. He was actually pretty fantastic in Cleveland if you go back and look at the last 6 weeks when guys got hurt and he got some opportunity. And then he's been amazing for us. He's great. That's the thing. Lowry's great.
I'm intrigued by what Ainge is thinking, because the reason that we went over the questions both on the air and off before that press conference is because Ainge speaks so rarely. And there are so many Jazz fans, and he holds all their hopes and dreams in his hands. And he doesn't talk much. I'm curious if they're ever going to make a deal with the Warriors, because I just don't know that the Warriors have enough. And maybe you can, and maybe there's some three-way deal to be made with the Warriors and Spurs, and so maybe there's something there. But I just wonder if they're in the poker game to raise the price of poker for Oklahoma City, because we know who really has the goods. We know who's got a roster full of young players that either are very good or look like they're about to be very good, and they've also still got a ton of draft picks. So if you're looking to get the most, they've got the most. So really, I wonder if the Warrior thing is a Trojan horse here.
You sign Lowry to the extension. You know he's going to be still available for the next period of time, and you've already established what the market price is. It's an interesting thought. I certainly am pro signing Lowry to the extension because I like watching Lowry, but it has nothing to do with team building.
If you remember the question in the press conference about Lauri Markkanen was met by a guy who'd been previously very expansive, was met with a big ol' no comment, not getting into that, not my favorite topic, thanks, no thanks, and next question.
Right.
He did not want to go down that road because I think there were too many options, and he didn't want to be accused of lying later, and he didn't want to tip his hand. It's just easier to, no, we're not talking about that.
Right. No, it's a good point. I don't know if they would do it. But do you think Oklahoma City would send us Jalen Williams for Lauri Markkanen?
Yes.
I'd be super interested.
And do you think Ainge is asking for draft picks too?
Yes.
Yes.
If I'm Oklahoma City, I think I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Jalen Williams is just as good as Lauri Markkanen at this point.
Ooh.
And he can handle. Oklahoma City has a little lack of ball handling, so I think that's a hard trade for them. But I'll take the Williams brothers as our core for the future.
The Williams brothers, listening to those guys talk, the rookies, I think all three of them were asked basically, what do you expect in the summer league here where they start in Salt Lake and then go down to Vegas? And I think all three of them said, I don't know. I'm paraphrasing and I'm doing a rough interpretation, but I thought that was a good answer by all three of them. I don't know. We'll see. I'll do what they say they want me to do and go from there. Is that a good representation of what their attitude should be and their mindset?
I thought all three of them were fabulous. Either they all have good agents, good parents, good upbringings. Derek Arduino got to them fast. I don't know what. But I thought Cody Williams talked about playing hard, which has been the one real criticism, if you talk to scouts about him, is whether he understands how hard to play. Isaiah Collier talked about passing and winning. I thought it was really interesting. I asked Isaiah Collier, how do you evaluate your year at USC, which was his chance to basically give every excuse or explanation, I don't mean it negatively, about what the environment was and why he didn't get to thrive. And his answer was, we should have won more. I thought that was pretty great. And I thought the idea that Filipowski has struggled in interviews is not possible. He was great. So I thought all three of them really answered questions and had been taught or understood themselves of what was important and what mattered. And I think you're right. They have no idea what's coming in Summer League, and they have no idea what's coming in the NBA. And I don't expect, I always got to find a way to change my answer on this. I always say, I don't expect much from them next year. That's not because I don't expect much from them. It's because I have such an unbelievable respect for the 300 guys that play regularly in this league. And there's just no chance those guys are ready for that. There's the 300 players that play every night in this league are so unbelievably great. And this league is so impossible. And it's a little bit of where we started. The separation between those players that might be good or actually are great is super big to me. And, I'm excited to watch Cody and Isaiah and Kyle. I wouldn't I think they're going to be able to do this or that. Okay. Well, we'll wait and see, because I think the league's really, really hard, and they're going to have some developing to do. It's going to take some time. I think they all have a chance to be really good.
We have all heard that the 23 draft was going to be great, the 24 draft wasn't as good, and the 25 draft was supposed to be great. I just read the 26 draft is supposed to be great. I don't have any idea if that's true or not. Have you heard or read or been told or believe, is the 26 draft loaded? Because that goes to the question of how far down are the Jazz willing to go, and how long are they willing to stay down? A couple of loaded drafts might encourage you that the short-term pain is worth the long-term gain.
Yeah, I've heard 20. Now, yes, I've read the same things you have. I don't have any idea. I haven't seen any players. But, yeah, that is the new murmur, right, is that 2026 is just as good as 2025. I get really nervous on these things because kind of one of the obviously Victor Wembanyama, two things. The Victor Wembanyama draft was supposed to be great last year. That was supposed to be the most amazing draft. Okay, Victor's great. There's a real chance Scoot's not. Amon, Asur are both amazing athletes who can't shoot, so we'll see how that plays out. And that next group of kids, Jerice Walker, Anthony Black, some of those others, still a long way to go. Now, I go back to what I just said a moment ago that, rookies are hard, so, let's give them some time and give them some leeway. The other one I go back to is the Dante Exum draft. That was supposed to be the most amazing draft ever. If I remember correctly, it was Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, Joel Embiid, Aaron Gordon, and Dante Exum and Marcus Smart were the top 6 picks, and Nick Stauskas was 7. Really? That was the draft that we were all tanking for? And that was supposed to be a marquee draft. And you got Andrew Wiggins, who's a nice rotation player, not an all-star, nice starter. Jabari Parker, who didn't pan out. Joel Embiid, who's a superstar. Aaron Gordon, who's a nice starter. And Dante Exum, who didn't pan out or is a rotation player at this point in his career. Okay, that's kind of what drafts are. So I'm a little hesitant on this idea that there's this monster draft coming and that you would build your whole life around it. Plus, the lottery odds make it really hard to live that way. Ask Detroit.
Well, we can, because now we know somebody in Detroit. I can literally ask him. Dennis Lindsay looked good on TV.
Yes,
there he was.
Yes.
Sitting there watching.
I got it.
All right, David. Well, we'll let you continue to pace the neighborhood and enjoy the time off with family, and we will talk to you again.
Will I be lucky enough to see either of you at Summer League?
Yeah, if you're back, sure.
Not me. I'll be in Vegas.
Big 12 media days overlapping.
Yeah.
And that's too bad.
That 2014 draft had Nikola Jokic, so it was an incredible killer draft.
Right.
And nobody knew it.
Right. That goes to the Giannis Rudy draft, right? The top side of I think there's like two other examples of this. There's the Giannis Rudy draft, we all know. And I think if you look back at the front side of that draft, it wasn't very good. And there's the Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard draft, which is Alec Burks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that draft was great too.
Was that Ennis also?
Yeah.
That one of those, Tristan Thompson and Ennis Cantor at the top of your draft. Like, ooh, wow, pretty exciting. Oops, Jonas Valanciunas. Ooh.
If you take,
long NBA careers, but
yeah,
and lots of TV appearances.
Ennis and Alex is one thing. Klay and Kawhi would have been another.
Yeah, right. So, I think it's really hard to sit here and say that, Dan's got a pretty good track record, and Justin has a pretty good track record of drafting the right guy most of the time. So, I guess if you're in the position to draft, hey, there's a real argument that things haven't broken as they hoped, and you actually have to take a step back and go to 05 and 06 and hold that pick for both those years, and then I think it becomes second-round picks, and by that time you hope Keontae's is ready to go, and if not, you make adjustments and you go. But it's hard, man. It's super hard. I'm sitting here in L.A. Lakers and Clippers are both in kind of a disaster. They got, literally someone said to me last night, with all the money in the world, why can't Steve Ballmer do this better? Well, because it's really hard, right? It's really hard. But they're, the Clippers are in a mess. They have no picks, and if healthy, they're the 8th best team in the West right now. And the Lakers, I don't know. What are they? 6th best team in the West? And they just basically decided to redo the Kobe Bryant farewell tour with LeBron?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, and when they did that, they missed the playoffs 6 years in a row. So,
right.
there was a torn Achilles in there, too. So, but stuff goes wrong. Stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if a superhuman robo-man, LeBron, is ever going to have a problem, it's going to be now.
When we come back, what is trending? The headlines next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
I don't know if people really understand Bronny. He doesn't care. I actually cared a little bit when I came in. I wanted people to like me, and some of the things that people were saying about me, it kind of bothered me early on in my career. I let it get to me. Bronny doesn't give a He doesn't. He does not care about nobody's. He doesn't even listen to that stuff. He's like the complete opposite of his dad. His dad will say something. Yeah. Bronny does not care. Like me personally, when I was coming up, I had no choice. I literally had no choice. I had to make it out. I had no choice. I had to make it out for me, my mom, my family. Bronny has all the choices in the world. So it's like a whole nother, people don't understand how hard that is and the commitment. For him to be coming out of heart surgery less than a year ago, for him to be able to be in the NBA, the kid he's special, but he doesn't care. It doesn't bother him.
The summer of Bronny continues. LeBron James on his son and his attitude. LeBron had to make it out. Bronny doesn't. That's true.
Well,
we'll see how much he does or doesn't care. I think most people actually do care at least a little bit. I thought the way LeBron said it, I did care a little bit. And you try not to care a lot, but you do hear the quote-unquote noise.
I don't care that he doesn't care.
There it is.
Nor would I care if he did care. And LeBron is right. Bronny has cash. So Bronny doesn't have to get out because he's already out.
Salt Lake City Summer League starts tonight. Delta Center, Oklahoma City Thunder facing the Philadelphia 76ers at 5 o'clock, followed by the Jazz and the Grizzlies at 7. Time-honored tradition that has hit hold a few times, but has continued with a few intermittent breaks for about 40 years now. People going to be into it? I mean, I'm not going to see more young guys than this year. There've been years where they have one draft pick or none, and it's a little ho-hum, but a lot of draft picks and second-year guys.
Well, much like November, this is the most important summer league of our lifetime.
There it is. Except for next year's summer league when they'll have 3 more.
We don't know that. Well, yeah, but next year it's going to be important, but the development will be a little bit assured with Cooper Flagg playing for the Jazz. So he'll be like LeBron and Tim Duncan and some of these other Shaq, these number one picks, where it's a bona fide sure thing. We'll have that next summer, yeah.
More on the Summer League coming up with the question of the day in the very next segment. Little player movement. The Sacramento Kings adding DeMar DeRozan, 3 years, $74 million, sign and trade deal. Harrison Barnes and a 2031 first round pick swap. Headed to the Spurs with Chris Duarte and 2 future second-round picks and cash going to the Bulls in the deal. I guess the Bulls wanted something back with DeMar leaving, so have a couple second-round picks.
Yeah, we'll see what DeMar is a nice player, but just because you're a nice player doesn't mean you automatically fit into what Sacramento's got going on.
And can Sacramento get into the top 4 in the West? That is their quest.
I mean, I think it's possible. But I'm interested to see how all the pieces fit because Sacramento's been decent the last couple years, and they're building, and now you're going to take somebody who needs the ball to be able to do his thing. How's that all going to work? But they know that's something that they've got to work on going forward. But, I don't know that it's an earth-shaking move, but I can see why Sacramento would want to make the move.
Warriors star Steph Curry said he believes the run the team had will never be repeated and could be the last true NBA dynasty. I don't think it'll be replicated just because it's very hard to keep things together in this league. A lot more player movement. Me, Clay, and Draymond, we complemented each other so well for so long. We all brought something different to the table. So we'll see. Records are meant to be broken. Dynasties come all different shapes inside of us. We'll see. It may be a while before there's a dynasty, but I don't believe there's never going to be another dynasty. There'll be one at some point.
I get his point. It's hard. It's very, very hard to do. I don't think any rules or regulations will prevent it. To me, it's more about being able to acquire the talent at the right time. You got guys coming in together, and they're of the same age group, basically, right? So then they can grow. And then you get Durant in there who aids and gives you a couple more. Maybe they get them, maybe, but we don't know. So that leads to their ability to win it, and you had a premier player that was there for a part of it. So there's a lot of things that have to come together. I'm not sure that any rules would prevent it. It's more of how do you get that talent? That's the hardest thing to do. Jazz are going through it right now. So many, every team basically, maybe 2 or 3 aren't going through it. The rest of them are. How do you get that talent to be able to do what the Warriors did?
I think the thing Steph has going for him in this argument that'll be hard to do is as they tighten the financial rules, will more teams run into what the wall that the Oklahoma City Thunder hit in their last build/rebuild, when maybe they could have had something if they kept Harden, but they moved him to Houston and they ultimately never won a title. If the financial rules are tough for that young group that comes in together, and I think it was 3 consecutive drafts they hit with Harden, Westbrook, and Durant. Maybe it was 3 out of 4, but I think it was 3 in a row. And if you can't keep those guys together because of the financial rules and you can't pay everybody, then I think Steph's argument carries more weight. But tell me what those rules and limitations are going forward, because the Warriors, when they might have broken up, they got a new TV deal, the cap went way up. They not only weren't broken up, they all got paid, and there was still money to pay Durant on top of it.
Well, Boston isn't being broken up. I don't need to go back. I can just go back to yesterday. Boston's here. They're doing it.
Yeah, but their guys aren't all the same age either. I mean, Drew Holiday was a big part of that, and he's much older. But maybe they'll go back-to-back. And at what point is it a dynasty? Does it just take 2 in a row? Or does it take 3 championships to be a dynasty? We all argue that when we get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need any in a row. The Spurs didn't have any in a row.
They did not. They did not.
So it's how many you win, not how many you win in a row.
Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo leading Greece to an 80-69 win over Croatia, and they are in the 12-team field in the Paris Olympics later this summer. First time Greece has qualified since 2008. Obviously the first trip for Giannis. DJ and PK.
#NFL.
He brings a special type of swag to when he come into play, so you can see it in him. Yeah, I for sure feel like CJ got the opportunity to be the best quarterback in the league. Not me just saying it because who he is to me, but just like what I'm seeing him do each and every week. Like what the world see, they seeing exactly what we seeing, man. how he's just coming out there and as a 21-year-old man, he going against, grown man, and he out there just balling every week. It's like how consistent he is. All that just play a factor. I feel like CJ got to just keep doing what he's doing to bridge the gap between him and Mahomes, man.
I was distracted by the cool jazz in the background. Yes, C.J. Stroud is awesome, and it is incredible that he has hit the league, and, very little adjustment time for him. But, man, that cool jazz distracted me right there. That was very
Who was that?
Soothing. That was Tank Dell, Texans wide receiver, talking up his quarterback.
Well, he got to keep doing what he's doing. I mean, yeah, obviously that's the goal, man. Keep doing what he's doing.
Wide receivers have to be loyal to quarterbacks. The Arizona State Sun Devil connection. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk posting a video on TikTok that showed him watching Washington Commanders practice film as his protracted contract negotiations with the 49ers continue. Ayuk said to favor a trade to Washington if San Francisco were to deal him. He would like to reunite with quarterback Jaden Daniels back in the day in Tempe. They built a bond. Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb got into a social media beef with former Cowboy wide receiver Cole Beasley after Beasley critiqued Lamb's posts about his offseason workouts and took some heat from people for it. Give me 180 targets off the couch and I eclipse 1,000 yards, Beasley wrote. Lamb responded with, I don't need 180 targets to touch a band. Pull up tape. I'd match you route for route on getting open. Just chill. Remember when guys used to say they were misquoted? And now guys just put it out there on social media. Let's go.
Okay.
Vikings rookie cornerback Kyrie Jackson was killed in a car crash Saturday night along with two of his friends, Isaiah Hazel and Anthony Lynn Jr., who also played college football. He was an Oregon standout and car speeding and changing lanes, and 3 cars ended up being involved. Tragic situation there. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
And the 1-1, that's it well. Out to deep left field, Profar backtrack wall, gone! Just over the left field wall, Eugenio Suarez. And it gives the Diamondbacks a 3-1 lead.
No wonder they're booing him here. Pitch. Swing, there's a shot to center field, crushed, high and deep, and this ball is long gone. What a shot by Raffy, his second home run of the day. It's 3-0 Red Sox.
Swung on and hit high in the air, deep left field. Dubon is back. He's at the base of the wall. He leaps. It's gone, and the Twins win. Christian Vasquez will walk off his former team. There is a welcoming committee at home plate, and they're going bonkers at Target Field.
Always against the former team, right, PK? Twins beat the Astros 3-2.
Way to go, Twins.
Atlanta, 3 homers in the same inning. They shut out the Phillies 6-0. The Yankees' struggles continue, blanked by the Red Sox 3-0. And your Diamondbacks take 2 out of 3 from my Padres. 9-1, a Sunday blowout after 2 thrillers.
So I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I watched start to finish the prior 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
And they were making a big deal about record crowds at the ballpark in San Diego. Well, duh. 2/3 of the Phoenix area is in San Diego.
The roar of the crowd when the Diamondbacks homer twice in the 9th. Why are San Diego fans so excited? Well,
they're not.
It's 120 over there, and it's about 80 over here, so let's go over here.
Yeah, my sister was there for the week, and she texted me yesterday. She left, it was 65. Got home, it was 113.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Torey Lovello, the manager, he commented, the little pregame interview that they do, and so they played him. He said, yeah, I was walking around Seaport Village. Everybody's been down there. And everywhere I went, they were all over the place. Yeah. When we lived there for a while, it seemed like every other weekend we were going down to San Diego because somebody from Arizona was coming over for a vacation, a weekend, a long weekend, or whatever it might be. So I had to laugh on that. I know you went to Coronado, but if you go up to Pacific where they got all those what I would call bungalows that are for rent, and you can every third car is in Arizona license plates. So I had to laugh. They were making a big deal about that. Well, of course, because there's so many folks from the Valley who go over there. That's their American beach. This is funny. So, I lived in the South Bay area, which is in the LA area, and we'd always go down to the South Bay. And so my daughter, who's older now, her friends want to go to San Diego for a beach weekend. And she said, no, let's go to Manhattan. And her friends are like, where?
That's hilarious.
It's either Newport or San Diego. Arizona's more San Diego. I think up here it's more Newport. But nobody thinks of the L.A. beaches from up here to go. They always think of Newport or down south to San Diego. So, yeah, I know why they set the records, because there's so many Arizona people there.
I thought San Diego and Santa Barbara, when I drove through L.A., I never thought L.A. was a good beach town. And when I saw beaches in L.A., and maybe it's just the photos or the video they choose, they were packed. And I always just assume, well, there's the same amount of real estate and there's way more people. Why do I want to go to such a crowded beach? See the shot of Santa Monica, and it'd just be swarmed with people, and it's a pretty big beach.
Well, that's where you got a lot of parking too. You got to if you get away from where the parking is, then there's it can be pretty good, especially during the week.
The Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The rosters are announced, and they skew young. Not a little young. Way young. 32 first-time All-Stars. 19 under the age of 27. Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens. Is he the biggest name of all? To me, he's the biggest name, but you follow it closer than I do. Skeens.
Well, he's with the Pirates. If he were the Yankees or somebody, then it would really be through the roof. Yeah. But and he's got that social media influence girlfriend, and he throws gas big time.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the first timers. The Witt kid whose dad played for
Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, I mean he's a star in the making. De La Cruz, we've talked about him. He's super exciting. He takes 3 strides and he's standing on second base. It's what I've said for years. All these games, they just reinvent themselves over and over again.
DJ and PK, a reminder, the Bees beat Tacoma 10-7. Same 2 teams tonight, 6:30 on The Zone.
#RSL.
Ojeda with the ball. Ojeda around a defender into the attacking third. Slots the ball through for Luna, who crosses it in front. And crashing in. Matt Crooks finishes, and RSL has the lead in the first minute. Oviedo runs over it, leaves it for Luna. Luna sends it to the back post. Chicho header, and in! Chicho Arango, goal number 17 on the year. He ties Sabario's club record. Michael Chang, who came on after the goal as a sub, comes forward, leaves it for Luna. Luna volleys to himself. Luna! Diego Luna finishes, and it's 5-2. Diego Luna is having a night. RSL with a 5-2 win. Diego Luna, a goal and 3 assists. That was a game that just completely changed. 1-1 at the half, and then the second half was just wide open. And RSL with another 5-goal performance at home and an easy win. Ultimately.
Well, I was on the Zoom trying to get in a question, but your 14 consecutive questions didn't leave no time for nobody.
You have never raised your hand with a post-game question for Pablo. That'd be awesome if you did.
You can go look. I was texting Yak. Was he ever going to stop asking questions? Yak can back me up.
And we're text exchange.
I did text Trey and say 10 in a row. That's a world record.
Jeez, I thought
Trey's
it was a one-on-one. No wonder why the Jazz don't call on you. You'd never give up the floor.
Ha! 5 goals against Colorado, 5 against Austin, and now 5 against Atlanta. But can they do it on the road next week? Big road trip coming up. They're playing 3 of the top 5 teams in the West. As they hit the road, it starts with 5th place Portland and Portland next Saturday night. Royals pick up a point. It finishes 1-1 in Seattle, and now a 7-week Olympic break and a chance for the Royals to retool under their interim coach, and they're expected to bring in more players. So, DJ and PK.
#golf.
Can you even comprehend the number 28 under, PK? I mean, no. 28 under. Davis Thompson wins the John Deere Classic. Just completely, I mean, you open with a 59 and you finish, 10th, 12th, up the track. Thompson just keeps throwing out the 63s and the 64s, just one after another.
Can you comprehend the number 114?
There's a time in my life where I could comprehend that, yes.
That's not in golf. Oh. That was the temperature that I played yesterday.
Oh, you did? I wondered about that. I wondered how early you went out to beat the heat.
Oh, no, I got the Twilight Special.
At 114.
We went down to Mesquite. And let's see, it's a little misleading. You know, you tee off at 8:30, but from the sun's perspective, it's really 9:30. Because for some stupid reason, Nevada thinks they're California and they're on Pacific time, which they shouldn't be. They should be on Mountain time with all the rest of the non-coastal states in the West.
Yeah, Las Vegas is doing a lot of business with LA, so they're going to stay on Pacific time.
It's dumb. Yeah. It's really dumb. Like, for instance, we go to this Conestoga that you go to in the winter. They have a 10 o'clock shotgun start, and that's it. And they take 18 groups to start every day.
Really?
Yeah, because it gets so dark. It gets dark so early in the winter. It's like 4 o'clock. So yeah, we did play and finished at 114, and it was a little rough, but we wanted to say we did it, and there you go, 114.
You play better in the heat? Does the ball really carry?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. I don't think it wears you. Like you
can't focus.
They got a guy driving around, and he gives you wet towels, so you put it on your head, take your hat off, put it on your head, just let it soak you, all that type of stuff. And yeah, and then we're on our way to Vegas today for the stuff tomorrow with the Big 12 media. Days Tuesday and Wednesday in Mountain West, Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have all the stuff here on the station. And then the Ultimate Sports Bash on Friday. It's a busy week. I will be moderating 3 different hours on that thing.
What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. And speaking of the Ultimate Sports Bash, we are joined now by John Woodbury. The countdown is on, John. The athletes all lined up. The coaches all lined up. Herding cats time or nothing to do but cross the T's and dot the I's. You're on Easy Street.
It's a little bit of both.
I bet.
There's a lot of cats to herd. We ended up with a lot of athletes. We're nearing 100 actually, all told. Lots of Utes and Cougars, lots of former Utes and Cougars, and guys from pros, from amateurs. We've got semi-pro teams coming in that you get to meet. Some of the local players that are just following their passion. They're playing football. They're playing ultimate frisbee, whatever it is.
And they'll be at the convention center in Sandy, 94th and State?
Yes, they will.
When?
Friday and Saturday of this very week.
And what time will the doors open?
10 o'clock. It's 10 to 7 both days.
10 to 7 both days. I understand there's going to be a little chance to take the kids down there and let them run around and recreate.
Absolutely. The kids zone is going to be a lot of fun. It gives kids a chance to try out a lot of different activities and new things. We've got a kid-friendly axe throwing, so those kids that wanted to do that. And
wait a minute. There's a phrase you don't hear every day. Kid-friendly axe throwing.
Yeah, you got to come down to see it. The most important thing it's shaping up to be is air conditioning. It's going to be air conditioned, all sorts of sports stuff, and it's inside.
Nice. What's the cost to get in?
$40 for the day of, for 1 day, and 2-day passes are $60. We actually have a family pass for $150 for both days.
Okay. All right. Where do people find out more information?
UltimateSportsBash.com for schedules and athletes that are going to be there and all of the amazing activities that you can do.
I assume there are going to be golf vendors there helping us out, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're the backbone of the event.
Even mini golf pro-am.
All right. John, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. The Ultimate Sports Bash coming up Friday and Saturday in Sandy, 94th and State. DJ and PK, this is 97.5 The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Sean Dursey is going to be wearing the number 50 for the Utah Hockey Club.
We showed flashes of greatness, I want to say. It was really special when we were on our game, playing that kind of exciting, offensive, aggressive style hockey. We're taking the game to other teams. We beat some really good teams this year, and teams that went on to be contenders down the stretch. The question is can we do it on a consistent basis? And I think, like you guys said, bringing in these players, a little bit of experience. The guys last year, just knowing what we went through with all the adversity and just the distractions away from hockey, I think we really bonded from that, and we're really, really excited to finally be able to just play hockey and focus on being a really good hockey team.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hot Takes or Toast brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. Question of the morning. What do you want to see from the Rooks in the Summer League? 7 o'clock tonight, Delta Center. Game 1 of 3 before they head off to Las Vegas. Pretty simple answer here, isn't it? There's going to be 2 answers from people if they limit it to one thing they want to see. Daniel says, I want to see the whole team, especially the rookies, tear it up. I want to see defense from everyone and, of course, some offense with some highlight reel dunks, blocks, and fast breaks. Wouldn't hurt to run a faster offense than what the Jazz did last year. I think he's leaning towards what I think is answer number 2, which is athleticism. Not going far in the NBA without athleticism. But the number 1 thing, shooting. How many times have we heard it's a make or miss league? You got to have shooters. So I want to see guys shooting it, and I want to see some off-the-charts athleticism, which this is a little bit of dog bites man right here, but why wouldn't you want to see this?
I want to see domination. Start to finish, 48 minutes.
Our rookies are better than your rookies?
Yeah, they've got to make the all Rocky Mountain Review team. That's critical. I'd say having these 3, putting 3 on the all Rocky Mountain Review team, it's more critical than winning the in-season championship.
Hot take right there. Oh, slow down.
That athleticism, well, Cody Williams provides it, so you don't have to worry about that. That's a guarantee. You're going to look for, as you said, the ability to do other stuff, put the ball in a basket, look like you can be a threat on the perimeter, look like you could be a threat on the dribble drive, those types of things. The other 2, you look at an Isaiah Collier, and we've seen some really good players at his position. You've got to have athleticism, but, you don't need to be a Russell Westbrook type of player, right, who had it in spades, right? He's just as athletic as it could be in his prime. The ability to get up and down the floor, move left, right, all those types of things, jump. He certainly had it. But then you look at somebody like Andre Miller, who played, 18 years in the league? And, he didn't have. Now, he had it, but we're talking about an elite level. But yet, he was an effective player for so very long. Using the body, the strength that he had. He was, relatively speaking, somewhat smaller, but he's one of these dudes who played much bigger than his actual height because he knew how to use it. He knew how to use the body to maneuver to get where he wanted to go. He had long arms, too, right? We can all envision of Andre coming down, and he was one of these guys, if you put him in a foot race, he may not win, but if you asked him to dribble the ball and run, he seemed much faster doing that. And then he'd get in the lane and he'd do that leaner and he'd have those like Kevin McHale arms and he'd make the shot, right? We can all envision that.
I was visualizing it as you painted the picture.
Yeah. So it's like Pablo after the game the other night. I want our guys to be scanning the field. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, I can envision what he's talking about. Being on the field, scanning the field, like Stockton would do. He'd come down. He would scan the court, had the ability to make the play before it even developed, or know what the play was going to be before it developed. Well, Andre could do that too. So I'm looking at Collier. Do I need him to have super elite athleticism? Maybe not. But if you don't have that, then you better have some other stuff that makes you elite. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I don't know if Andre Miller type elite will show itself in Summer League. Everything's so scrambled there, and I think structured play worked.
You're just listening for glimpses, though.
That's that's absolutely true, because we're going to be looking at 19 and 20-year-olds, and we're going to be figuring, well, they better be better at 24 and 25. But so show me a glimpse of what they can do. I mean, realistically, that's the best you can hope for.
Right, and Williams will show you that athleticism. I have no doubt about that. That's like zero concern there. Filipowski, be decisive in what you do. You have a lot of experience in college relative to the experience that kids coming in the league have now. You played 2 years. You played, I think, 70, 71, 72 games. So you basically had double what most of these kids have right now, right? And so I want to see that. I want to see you be more comfortable. And I know all three, and correctly, when asked what do they expect, I don't know, man. Jeez, I'm just showing up and doing what they tell me to do. And that's the right attitude to have going into this. But this is an exciting little 3 days here locally, and then it'll continue on to Vegas next week. Show us something, right? You show us something, okay, that's all we're asking for. I mean, the bar is very low. If you exceed it, great. If you don't, like, oh, man, a little nervous there. Well, if you meet the expectations, which I expect is what will happen, they're like, okay, yeah, I see why these guys drafted these three individuals. Sure, yeah, all right. I'm fine with that. I mean, if they just show you a little, so they don't have to go out and be all that. You know, I'm not going to go crazy either way, but what I don't want is guys just look like they're totally lost, which I don't think is going to happen.
And the shooting?
The shooting, yeah, that's a developing thing there. I would suspect that Filipowski would be able to shoot. But, you know, you're going to be nervous. So I'm looking for form, right? Shooting can come and go to an extent. But when you see someone just in rhythm, and we know what a good shooter looks like. And these guys have track records on this. Who was it? Was it Steve Cleveland, I think, was talking about, can you really develop into a really good shooter if you're not already a good shooter? Because these kids, although they're puppies, they've been playing this game for a good long time and literally played hundreds, if not thousands of games at this point, right? And so can you be a good shooter if you're not? Can you get better? Sure. Can you be an elite level? Like, take a guy like Joe Ingles, right? When he first came into the league, you know, we weren't sure what he got. Well, then he developed and he worked on that thing where he would catch the ball around his neck and not bring it down and shoot it. And well, he became an elite three-point shooter. Was it already there? How much better did he get? That would be a question for him the next time we talk to him. How much better did you get? Statistically, he got better. There's no question about it. You can look it up, right? You see it. But was it already there? Brook Lopez, when he first came into the league, the centers weren't shooting threes. Well, that developed during his literal time in the league, and you go look at them, just the amount of that he took.
Yeah,
you can look this up.
Zero.
Basketball Reference. Yeah.
It went from zero to all of a sudden he's shooting every game, multiple threes. It just becomes a normal part of their offense.
Yeah. And he certainly got better, but how much was already there that allowed him to get better? He didn't shoot it back then because nobody did to the level that they do now. So those are things that we'll see as they go. I want to see these guys, if they get the shot, don't be tentative, just jump up, nice form, don't brick it, don't shatter the backboard, that type of thing. I think we can see that in these games, even if they go 2 for 8.
Watch the free throws. That's what scouts always talk about. You can't shoot the three right now, but he shoots free throws really well. So when he goes out there, and works on the three, there's something to build off of and he can do it. Now, I think that happens less than it used to because Steve Cleveland has also told us every time he goes to one of his kids' games, back when his grandkids are older now, but when he went to his grandkids' games, he's like, 9, 10, 11-year-olds are out there launching threes. So I don't think they have to learn it the way Lopez did. But your point, Lopez was like an 81, 82% free throw shooter. He could shoot. He just hadn't practiced shooting from 24 feet. So,
right, it wasn't required. It
right.
wasn't asked.
Yeah, and once he did that, well, then he turns into a, looks like 35, 36, 37% three-point shooter. So he can hit enough of them to keep you honest.
Right.
But, yeah, nobody was asking for that in 2010. But by 2020, it's a different game.
Yeah, totally.
So go on the free throws, and that is the boring part of the game right there. That's time to look around and people watch and all that. But no. Watch them shoot free throws because they can shoot free throws if they work on it, especially if they work on one or two spots on the floor. You need to be able to shoot straight away, right down the barrel. And you need to be able to hit a corner three, wherever they're going to put you in the offense, wherever they're going to spot you up. Work on one spot first. Will Hardy's big on that. Don't work on 10 things, work on one or two. Okay, work on the corner three. And so whatever it is they work on, if they can already shoot the free throws, then they can probably at least be decent. Maybe they'll end up being better than that. Now, Filipowski, he ought to come in and be able to be pretty good right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of his game.
Strength of his game, right. The pro line's a little further out, but come on. He's been working on it for a couple of years. You can't convince me he hasn't.
Well, as we've talked about, these kids knew that this day was going to come probably for 2, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
In the case of Collier, maybe even more, since he was so highly touted. And Williams was highly touted too. Both of them, you can argue, relative to their ranking, for whatever that means, had disappointing their only seasons in college. Now, injuries and illness and stuff factored into all that, and I'm not really worried about that. But if you wanted to, you can make a little bit of a case, which is cool. Because Collier already talked about that, man, that he didn't like being drafted 29th. So you got something going there. And Williams, maybe he thought he should have gone higher and all that stuff. So all these kids have a lot to prove, including the second-year guys. Hendricks, tons of stuff to prove. George, tons of stuff to prove. Kessler ought to be irritated that they're asking him to do it as a third-year guy.
There is one thing I'm looking for that falls outside of the shooting, number one, athleticism, number two, and it's something I want to see from Collier because of what we were told during an interview. And I will get to that. We will get to that next. Stay with us.
Accessing. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Blake Anderson being relieved of his duties at Utah State as the men's football head coach. Now you got to start to shake out what the prospects look like. If I'm Diana Sabo, I'm sitting and listening to people that have been in this state that understand the recruiting, they understand the environment, they understand the religion, they understand everything that happens in this state. I actually think Jay Hill is the best option. Jay Hill built Weber, raised Weber, ran it, made it successful in every way, shape, and form. Jay Hill is the perfect fit for Utah State and Logan. Jay Hill is the man. I wouldn't look any further.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The band of the day today is Toby Keith. He would have been 63 years old today. It's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com.
Yeah, Toby died earlier here. Well, a while back, I should say. Not too long ago. What was it, January? I think he's.
I wanted to say it was February, but yeah, right in that realm.
Yeah. Out of Norman, Oklahoma, and big star, and had some cool tunes, and that was one of them.
Toby Keith, band of the day. We'll have Toby Keith music all morning long. We were talking about a question. It's up on Facebook, DJ and PK. What do you want to see from the Rooks in the Summer League? Yak got us one of the people who covers USC basketball, and he said one thing Collier got.
Connor Morissette,
yeah. And Connor said one of the things that Collier got dinged for was the poor passing, assist turnover. And he said a big factor is that the SC bigs weren't very good and did not do a good job of catching the ball. Sounds simple, but he said Collier threw good passes and they go out of bounds because people couldn't move their feet. And he'd throw a good pass and somebody would fumble it and it wouldn't be a turnover, they wouldn't get the bucket. Or they'd fumble it and it'd be a turnover. And so I'm curious to see him with a different group of bigs and whether he's playing with Kessler or Filipowski or whoever's out there. Is he throwing alley-oops? Is he splitting double teams with bounce passes and getting guys easy layups? Because that is Connor provides the plausible explanation, and we'll get a little better of idea here. Now, without a lot of structure, maybe we'll see more of the same thing. Summer League games, we have seen a few sloppy Summer League games, so this may not be the ultimate test, but it's a different group of guys, so it ought to give us at least a little hint about that.
Oh, you're talking right there, the life of Caitlin Clark. She's dropping dimes left and right, and these clumsy gals ain't catching her passes, so she's leading the W in turnovers. Well, let me tell you, man, wake up on the other end. Same situation. We ought to get Isaiah with Caitlin, CC, and Isaiah, and they can discuss the very same thing. Catch the freaking ball.
I hit you in the hands. Catch it.
Jeez. You're barking right up my alley, man. I've been on this soap opera box for a long time.
Soap opera box?
Yeah. Oh, you
there's
don't think
soap
the
operas
W...
and there's soap boxes. Soap
you
opera
don't
box.
think the W hasn't turned into a soap opera? Come on.
Nice save.
That was intentional. If I have a stick save and it's a dandy, I'll let you know.
Oh, nice. What do you want to see from the rookies in the Summer League? Sammy says, I want to see honor, tradition, and spirit.
Oh, that's very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, then I won't be able to remember what their names are.
Yeah, just stick with the basics. Put the name on the jersey. Let's go.
Basketball, we know their faces because of the fact that we see their faces.
And there aren't that many guys to remember.
Well, that's true.
In case of the WNBA, there aren't that many women to remember. But in football, you got these huge rosters. How am I supposed to know all 53 NFL players and all 85 college football scholarship guys?
Well, a lot of times I'll know their names, but I won't recognize their faces because they got the helmets on. Before I covered BYU, I was asked to go up to Fresno and do a game. One of our guys I think he was running the St. George Marathon, actually. So Cragthorpe said, hey, we need you to go to Fresno to cover his BYU game. Okay, fine, whatever. No problem. And so I go up there and cover. And that's the game. Me and Andy Katz sat in the press box just discussing our futures because his wife was just finishing up I think a social worker advanced degree, and what were we going to do? And I said, oh, who knows? But he wasn't content in staying in Fresno the rest of his life, whereas turns out I'm staying in Salt Lake the rest of my life. And I get it. He wasn't from there. Took it because it was a job. And after the game, I requested a player, and the Fresno locker room was actually like the baseball locker room a half a mile away or something. I'm exaggerating. So I requested a linebacker or somebody. Well, I hadn't covered BYU, and the kid comes out, and he's standing there, it seemed like for 10 minutes. I'm sure it wasn't that long. But I didn't know that was him.
That's a problem. I think we've all been there at some point. Who's this? But they bring a guy out of the podium. Please introduce this person.
But I knew the name. That's why I requested him. But I didn't know what his face looked like because I hadn't been covering BYU. I just watched it on TV.
He's not wearing a jersey with a number for you anymore.
No. Right. He had just like the T-shirt underneath and the pants. Yep. And so I stood there looking at him. It was probably only 2 or 3 minutes, but it seemed like it was 10 or 15. And I think the Sports Information, that's him. Oh. Because in football, and I was thinking about this the next couple of days, all these Big 12 guys, I'm going to have to ask their names. I'm going to know their names, but I'm not necessarily sure what they look like. because it's all brand new. And we had that problem a little bit with Pac-12. They would bring a guy over in the early years, and you knew what school he went to, but you weren't sure because there was two of them, an offensive and defensive. And a lot of us, it was our first time exposure to those, and I think we made a couple of mistakes. So with basketball, you know their names. So we're going to know what Collier and Williams and Filipowski and Hendricks and all these guys look like. So it's not near the issue. But I'm excited to watch. I will be sitting in a Vegas sports book tonight to be able to watch that, the game. And I think it starts at 6 Vegas time, 7 o'clock our time. It's on ESPN, is it not?
It's on K-Jazz locally, and is it ESPN or NBA TV?
ESPN tonight, and also obviously here on the Zone.
And listen, you can listen on the Zone. How about that? If you were in your car, that would be very useful.
Well,
but not in Vegas sportsbook.
Do they not black out? But what's the phrase that you got to be in the market to listen to it for summer league too?
I don't know about summer league. In the regular season, you would. It would be blocked in Las Vegas in the regular season, but that'd be worth a text to David Locke. See if he knows the answer to that. My guess is it's not. I'll bet you could grab your phone and listen live, but I'm not positive. We'll have to confirm that with David.
Well, I'll be watching it.
DJ PK, and we're joined by John Woodbury, the Ultimate Sports Bash, coming to the Convention Center in Sandy, 94th South and State Street, Friday and Saturday. You got some athletes coming in. People are going to meet heroes, and I'm interested. First off, there's some big names, and people always want to know the big names. So give us the biggest dose of celebrity you can.
Nick Rimando, Greg Ostertag, Brian Russell, Cam Rising, Britton Covey.
Well, you have Ute fans' attention. If you have Cam Rising and Britton Covey, you have the Ute fans' attention.
We have a lot of Utes and Cougars. The BYU and Utah have both just been fantastic to work with. They're sending a lot of athletes. It's going to be real red and blue.
Are they sending current athletes, ex-athletes, a mix of both?
Mix of both. Lots and lots of current athletes.
Okay. That's good. Honestly, I think with the NIL thing, people give money to people they know. Yeah. And so the more that these guys can get themselves out there in the traditional media, on social media, and opportunities like this, you got to know who they are, and they got to know. I mean, you kind of grew up with sports a little bit, didn't you?
I did. We used to have players over to our house for dinner when I was a kid. Yeah. I remember in the early '80s, before it became a big thing with the NCAA, we used to have players come over for dinner, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really great way to grow up.
John's from the Woodbury family, if you're familiar with the word. Woody! Longtime sports information guy at the University of Utah. I don't know, 30 years? More?
35.
35, okay. Yeah. That's all I knew for a long time. Just call Woody if you want to know. Woody knows.
He always had the answers.
Now, you've got these high profile, and obviously you tap into the Utes and Cougars, but then you've tapped into some people where you got people who aren't famous by name, but then you hear about the play they're involved in. And then you realize, oh, they've got stories.
Yeah. Actually, Steve Wright's going to be on the show a little bit later. He's an interesting guy. He was on the TV show Survivor. He was on season 22.
Which I had no idea about. I got nothing for you there. But he was the right guard, and Tony Dorsett ran right by him. I've watched the play since I found out he was going to be on. I mean, I've seen it a million times, but I'd never stared at the right guard. So I stared at the right guard, and Dorsett runs right by him. And actually, the defender jumped the wrong way, jumped to the other gap.
Yeah.
And then he got in there and shielded him off when he tried to come back, and Dorsett was gone in a flash, 99 yards on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Longest touchdown run ever.
Absolutely. And there are so many athletes out there that have such unique experiences and unique stories, and they may not be the household names, but they're so fascinating. Michelle Manu is going to be there. She's in the International Martial Arts Hall of Fame. She just got a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from President Biden she's a stunt woman. She is a producer. She just does amazing things.
Like a bit of movies, TV shows, that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And fascinating. Wheels Fotheringham, Aaron Wheels Fotheringham, fascinating guy. He was in Nitro Circus. He does extreme stunts in his wheelchair. And just a fantastic human being and a great athlete. And so there's a chance to meet some of these guys that you just didn't know about, that you're going to be fascinated with and really interested to meet. And they're good people.
Yeah, I think Wright was a rookie when he made that play. And we always talk about the undrafted guy. He's an undrafted guy in 81, and he played into the 90s.
Yeah.
He was in the league more than a decade. Had a long run with the Raiders, a couple of years with the Cowboys. So, interesting. All right, looking forward to it. So, John, once again, the times, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yep, right when it's going to be 104 degrees.
Air-conditioned, he'd like to point out.
It is an air-conditioned building. You're going to want to come. Bring your kids.
So there's interactive stuff for the kids to do. There's vendors for some of the stuff that you need in sports, or maybe stuff you don't know you need that you'll learn you need that you'll be interested in.
Yeah, sports cards. We got a lot of sports cards traders and vendors. We've got a wrestling company that's going to teach you how to do pro wrestling. We also have Olympic wrestling coming out from UVU. They just hired one of the best coaches in the country, and he's going to be there talking about their wrestling program. Just if you love sports, this is the place to be.
All right, John Woodbury, the Ultimate Sports Bash, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. How much are tickets?
$40 for a day and $60 for 2 days, and we have a family pass for $150 for both days.
There you go. DJ and PK, thanks, John. Ultimate Sports Bash coming up Friday and Saturday, 9400 South and State Street at the Convention Center. DJ and PK, remember, you got a chance to win big every week on The Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you win a pair of tickets to see Post Malone at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on September 8th. Listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. You'll be listening all day Wednesday because it's also Big 12 Media Days, Tuesday and Wednesday. So gear up for that. Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, joins us now. Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
Steve, it's been said you only get one chance to make a first impression. And Summer League is the first impression. Now, we all know that players are going to evolve, so maybe that doesn't apply as much to basketball, but it still applies a little bit. First impression of a basketball player, what do you want to see? What are you looking for right away, first time you see somebody?
I think the very first thing you look at is how hard a guy plays and just the intensity. And, you know, that would be knowing that you come with, hey, I'm here, I'm going to commit to just doing everything I can to play as hard as I can, defend. You know, obviously we break this down a lot more, but the first thing is effort and intensity and skill. You know, and from there, then I'm looking at skill set and depending on what the circumstances are, what my needs are, is this person going to feel that? But I think first and foremost is just how tough and how hard they play. For me, is a first play. When I probably spent a lot of years watching guys in Vegas and LA and Washington, D.C. and everywhere. And one of the first things I looked at was, number one, how hard are they playing? Are they competitive by nature? And then you go immediately to their skill set. Can they shoot? And that was always kind of the first thing that I looked at was, can they shoot? Where are we at there with their offensive skill set? And then the last thing, probably just attitude, watching the attitude and how that plays out and how they deal with failure and how they deal with success. And, you know, you're developing a culture and a program. You're out recruiting in July and throughout the year you're recruiting. You're looking for the intangibles all the time. But first and foremost, I want a high competitive guy that, you know, you don't have to start from scratch in terms of his offensive skill set.
How about the ability of somebody to do what they're asked to do? I can remember you made a change when you had a really good team from one year to the next. You had a guard who was interested more in shooting, and you wanted a lead guard who was interested more in passing. So the guy who maybe had more talent didn't play as much because the player that had lesser talent did what you wanted him to do, and that made the team better. So I'm wondering, how important is that these players do what they're supposed to do within the framework of a team?
Well, I think that for coaches or for coaching staffs, as you prepare for a season, you're having meetings with players, and you're having those really kind of transparent conversations in terms of what their role is and, you know, what they can grow and become. I think you're constantly having those discussions. And so, and I think everybody goes through that as a coach, is that what's going to make us most complete about our team. And sometimes it was a guy that I just knew could defend, would do what we asked, get the ball to the guys that needed to get the ball. and rather than them having some kind of agenda in terms of, this is what my skill set is, this is what I'm going to do. If you're not having those conversations as a coach with players, then you're going to have issues with the intangibles and the culture stuff that is important long term. So, that happens all the time. And you get to a point where what are the needs for this team to reach its full potential? And maybe somebody making sure that somebody's just going to D up, guard up, man up, and do the things that don't require maybe necessarily a lot of what people would perceive as a lot of talent in terms of their ability to pass and shoot and do those kinds of things. The best case scenario is getting guys that are willing to buy in and also are very talented. Then you have really good teams.
I guess the problem with summer leagues, whether you're looking at what we're talking about here with the Jazz hosting the summer league for 3 games, 6 games over 3 days, but 3 games for the Jazz, or if you're looking at these AAU competitions in the summer, the level of structure and organization, that can have a pretty big impact on who shines and who doesn't, right? And it doesn't really basketball now doesn't look like basketball in January.
No, it doesn't. And I think, too, I think in the past there have been times where AAU basketball will kind of use that terminology. There were questions about, the things that were really important to coaches. And but I think very quickly you can see and watch, guys that really do want to compete. And I think when you're sitting in the stands and you're watching people compete, and you're watching 5 or 6 different guys that you're really interested in, I think we go back to that kind of the intensity on and off the court, the competitiveness, that makes a difference. But I will say this. As I have now as a grandfather going to grandson's AAU games, and I've been in Chicago, I've been in Los Angeles, Vegas. I've been to a few of these camps and during the summer, and just watching teams play. And there is, at the highest level, there's really good coaching going on at AAU. In the past it's been kind of you're thinking, they just run up and down the floor and it's all one-on-one. But the things that I saw when I was in Indiana and when I was in Illinois and when I was in Vegas and in Los Angeles watching grandchildren play is that it was really organized and that there was a lot of coaching going on rather than – and mind you, you can see the opposite of this. I get that. But I was impressed with the accountability of not letting guys – make mistakes and stay on the floor, or having a bad attitude and staying on the floor. That type of behavior was corrected quite quickly. Now, I'm not putting a blanket over all of AAU basketball, but what I saw at the highest level is there was a lot of coaching and a lot of preparing for the next level, whether it's in college or potentially going into the NBA. So that was kind of fun to watch. I saw it firsthand, and I think I'm done. I have one grandson going to South Carolina, so I'm not going to be there, but I'm hoping to get down one more time to Vegas. And kind of fun, too, also to see guys, coaches, and I haven't seen in a long time, and to be there. But I was impressed. I have been impressed with the quality of coaching that's going on in the number of the tournaments I've gone to.
How much stock do you put into motivation? I'll show them, because you can argue that all 3 of these guys that the Jazz got were, in their minds anyway, and their handlers, thinking that they deserve to go higher. So I'm wondering if you believe in that type of stuff.
I'm hoping that between the interviews that take place prior to the draft and the workouts, that you'll find a lot about the character of these guys. And Pat, we were together listening. We had an opportunity to, on the phone, talk to Cody Williams. And, it just seemed like he had a great attitude and he was prepared. And I think by the time you get to that point, by the time you've been interviewed, by the time you've been worked out, they understand and realize that there's a next level to this that I never reached when I was in college, or maybe they're coming out of high school. And I think those that have a humble attitude and are coachable and willing, and I just can't imagine I would just think that 90% of the guys that are getting drafted are hungry and coachable and want to be there and make this a living for the rest of their, for the next 10, 20 years. So I believe that in this setting with the NBA and with the draft, that we're not going to see a lot of the inappropriate behavior or selfishness or those kinds of things out there. Number one, they got a staff there that's there with them during summer league. I don't know if you guys have been to summer league before, but it's kind of a fun thing to watch. I've never watched it in Utah because I haven't been up here, but I did go to Vegas one time and watched it, and I just thought it was organized and guys were playing hard and competing. I mean, they're playing for their lives here. They're trying to get in a situation where they can spend a long time in the league. So for me personally, I see a real upswing in terms of how this is managed and what happens from the high school to AAU to college to the next level to the NBA. So I've actually have been really happy about what I've seen. It doesn't mean that there aren't inappropriate things going on or the guys think that there's attitude problems coming into camp. I just can't imagine that happening, to be honest with you, in this day and age, because there is so much transparency and so much connection between coaches and assistant coaches and throughout the year that, I don't know, the league is so much better. It's just getting so much better year in and year out, and it's because of the little things that are taught and enforced and mandated in your no matter who you are, whether you're the Jazz or whether you're the Warriors or you're the Celtics, they all have to have a culture that's going to be, has long-term effects and impact on the players and their success. So I'm really high on the NBA and how they do things.
For the Jazz draft picks, you got any particular guys you're watching for anything individually?
I mean, it's like I'm looking for those same intangibles and those kinds of things. But you take a look at Cody Williams, and what's he going to be like here? We know that he has length and size, and he can run the floor, and he's unselfish. He'll make plays and give the ball up. He's not a great perimeter shooter yet. So, those are the things that I would be watching. And you're not going to see a lot in the 3 or 4 days, but you're going to get a look and you're going to see the potential of a young man. And Cody himself, who was kind of had injuries late in the season, but everybody's quite certain that he has an upside. And I'm not sure that we'll necessarily see that upside, but hopefully we will. We'll see some things maybe that are surprises. I think having a younger brother in the league helps him, and with a lot of the different things. But him getting healthy, and then just basically, we talked about this when we did the draft night thing, but I think everybody needs to be patient with these younger players. And so if you know that they're not great shooters, don't go in there thinking you're going to go watch it. Well, this guy can't play. He can't. Well, let's look down the road and see what happens in the next 6 months, in the next 9 months, next year, where they're working full time on their craft and where they've never really kind of done that before with outstanding coaches. And then we'll start seeing the things that kind of make a difference, I guess. But I whether it's Cody or Isaiah Collier is another. I really look forward to seeing him play. I mean, we've talked on the show here. We talked about it in the draft night stuff where he was kind of the number one guy in the country, and now all of a sudden things kind of went south, and everybody's wondering what's happening. But he's got a huge upside. He's strong. He can score. He's got good instincts. I mean, he turned the ball over, and those are things that can be fixed, though, with coaching, with film. Those are things that are fixable. Shooting mechanics, if they're not great, then you're going to have to really spend time. And that's sometimes with him, I know he's just reading and getting more understanding about who he was. And he probably relied a lot on his athleticism and his ability, his quickness to kind of get places and do things and be really strong. But you get exposed pretty quickly, and not just the NBA, but even at the college level, if you're not working on your craft, and if you're not, you don't have the shot that you need time and experience to get better. And it's hard to play in this league if you're 6'3" and 6'4" and you don't shoot it. There aren't very many of those guys in the league. So with a guy like Isaiah Collier, that's going to be things he's working on. And, his decision-making on the floor will kind of be another thing. But, it's just going to be fun to watch him. Same thing with Kyle Filipowski. Here's kind of a project in the sense that he's 6'11", but the fact is he's got pretty good offensive skills. Now, I haven't seen those in person, except for maybe some clips and stuff. But, he can pass it, he can shoot it, he can dribble it, and he can be a force at times. But he's also really lacks the physicality that you need to play in this league. And so those are going to be things that the Jazz are going to be working with him during the summer. And, we'll have to see what happens. But, everybody looks at him and says, if he puts the whole package together here, he can shoot it, he can do this, and I heard nothing but good things about his individual workouts. And he does have good perimeter skills. And it's just going to be a matter of getting stronger and being able to be able to sustain that effort. And but that's a full-time deal. I know they probably get some time off, but I can't imagine these rookies, whatever the rules are with the NBA, every day they're not in the gym somewhere working on their craft, working on their weaknesses so they can get ready for the beginning of the season. So I like the picks. I think there's an upside to all of them. We've talked about this too, and it's like who's going to be ready. We've got 2 or 3 young players, and we're waiting to see what can happen. They've been there in a year. Now you got 3 more new ones. As it all plays out, a year from now, I'm not sure that all 5 or 6 of those. You got a sophomore class that has had some experience, and then you've got a brand new rookie class that's going to gain some experience. So it'll just be fun to watch and see who develops and who doesn't. But it's a fun thing to watch, and I know as a coach, to work guys out and to see that growth and that strength and to see guys get stronger and more competitive and more confident is one of the really great, wonderful things about coaching, is to see that change in front of you. So I'm hopeful we'll watch this, and as we watch some of the games and see these guys grow and develop this summer.
Big 12 Football Media Days is this week in Las Vegas, so I made my way down south. We'll be broadcasting there live from Vegas as it begins, and I made my way down south over the weekend. Finished up playing 18, and it was 114 degrees. Can you beat that?
I don't think I've ever played. I grew up in Central California, so I have played in temperatures where it's 100 degrees plus. I don't know about 114 if I've ever done that. I certainly couldn't do it today. But it's one of those things that, we for those that have a passion for that game, we'll play golf in any circumstance and situation. Nobody likes the wind. I don't mind the rain as long as I have the right gear on. But the wind is I hate the wind playing golf.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's just not fun to play. But the 114-degree weather might be a match for that. Because in Vegas, it's 114 and it's windy.
Yeah, I was in Mesquite. It wasn't too bad. The wind picked up towards the end, but it wasn't too bad. But the whole goal then was don't worry about the score. Just be alive when you walk off 18.
I know. That's the truth. Where did you play at in Mesquite?
Conestoga.
Okay. There's a lot of good golf there. A lot of good golf in that. But it is windy. And I have played some golf there when it was windy that, we didn't finish around. I mean, it was like 40, 50 mile an hour winds. And I thought, you're hitting the ball, it's up in the air, and, it goes 100 yards to the left or the right. So wind is not fun for golf. I can deal with the other elements. If it's cold, if it's 50 degrees or 40 degrees, put another layer of clothing on, let's go play. But not so much with wind.
Well, Steve, thanks for the time. We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're joined once again by John Woodbury, working with the Ultimate Sports Bash coming Friday and Saturday to the Mountain America Expo Center, 9400 South and State in Sandy. Lots of athletes, lots of vendors, current athletes, past athletes, interactive stuff for the kids. What's your favorite thing going to be? You're in the midst of all the planning.
So I have to be technically impartial, but growing up a Ute, I think my favorite thing...
With your dad employed by the University of Utah's athletic department. Yes.
Exactly. I am really excited about the 2008 and 2004 team reunions. So we're bringing back a bunch of players from those two teams, those epic, undefeated Utah football teams that played in the Fiesta Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, broke the BCS, slaughtered Alabama, and we're bringing a bunch of those guys back. So they'll do panels and autographs, and you just get a chance to hang out and hear stories of those epic seasons at the U. So I think that's probably my favorite part.
So I can do the math. The 2004 team is turning 40, give or take a couple of years, depending on what year you were in school then. How many of them do you recognize?
That's a good question.
I mean, some look exactly like themselves, and it's easy. Others may have, lost some hair, put on a few pounds. Grown a big old beard.
It'll be interesting to see. It really will. And but they're getting a chance to talk to them has been fantastic. They're interesting people and accomplished individuals, and I'm just excited to have them all in one place and be able to have that fan experience that I loved growing up with my dad being at the U. Mm-hmm. I loved listening to him and the writers and players and coaches just sitting back and telling stories. And that's what this is all about, is getting a chance as a fan to listen to stories that aren't, it's not interviews after games. It's just hanging with athletes.
How many different sports are represented at the Ultimate Sports Bash?
Wow, that's another good question. I would say it's almost like you've done this before. Probably maybe 10 to 15. Okay. A lot of different interesting sports. Appa Sherpa held the world record for the most times cresting Everest.
Okay.
So he climbed Everest 21 times as a Sherpa, carried other people's gear up. We've got Wheels Fotheringham, whose sport is wheelchair motocross. Sean O'Connell's an MMA guy. He obviously, you know him. He's fantastic.
You said mixed martial arts in there. I assume you got baseball, football, basketball, golf, soccer with Nick Rimando. So that gets you to 10.
Kyle Beckerman will likely make an appearance as well. We've got volleyball. We've got a couple of volleyball players from the USA volleyball team. Danny Drews and Ronnie Jones-Perry. We've got wrestlers, Olympic wrestlers coming up from UVU. We've got pro wrestlers. We got a pickleball pro pickleball guy.
Nice.
Chuck Taylor. We've got.
What kind of shoes does he wear?
You know what? I don't know what kind of shoes he wears. We'll have to find out.
I mean, Chuck Taylor's got to wear Chuck Taylor's.
You'd think so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it's that guy. He'd be a really old pickleball player.
He can't be the same Chuck Taylor.
We've got hockey. We've got gymnasts. We've got.
You're up over 15 sports easy.
Oh yeah,
you make closing in on 20.
We've got both UVU and BYU gymnasts. We've got mascots. We've got the original Jazz Bear. John Absey's going to be there. He's a fantastic.
Is he going to be in some kind of costume and disguise, or are people actually going to see what the Jazz Bear looks like?
They're going to see what he actually looks like. He's a very handsome man. I'm sure you'll all realize. He's really a good guy. Love hanging out with John. So we really have tried to make it inclusive of all the different sports. There are so many amazing sports out there. We've got a team that does ultimate frisbee professionally. It's kind of fun, and we're just too excited. Oh, rugby. The Warriors. I've gotten into rugby lately. It's a lot of fun. No matter what you like, no matter where your interests are, your expertise, you're gonna love it.
Ultimate Sports Bash, interactive stuff for the kids, interviews, panel sessions, autographs, selfies, vendors, air conditioning. It's all available 9400 South and State, the Mountain America Expo Center, the Ultimate Sports Bash, Friday and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tickets online or at the door or both?
Both. It's more cheaper online ahead of time. And KSL discount. If you put in the promo code KSL25, you'll get a 25% discount.
All right. There you go. Hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
The problem is I think the Jazz want to move a bunch of their draft picks, and now the market is not what it was before the Jazz made their own trades. But if Mikal Bridges is worth that, what is Anthony Edwards worth?
Yes, what is Giannis worth? Like, to get one of those guys now, is it 10 draft picks? Like,
right. What is the cost? So what is the way to go? It would make me more likely to go in on moving up in the draft. Because maybe I think that now drafting my player really has to be the guy, and I've got all these picks. I can move wherever I want in the draft. Maybe the most value is not flipping picks for stars, but drafting stars, because that's the only way to get players.
How do we get a star player? If we've got all these draft picks and we can't acquire another star, like the market is not opening up to make stars available for trade with all this draft capital, the only way to get a star is through the draft.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest, and then listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, and it's sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The Big 12 Media Day. The Utes and Cougars are back in the same league together again, putting all the focus on this enormous 16-team two-day extravaganza. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What do you want to know? What do you want to learn? That's a lot of questions. Pick one and dive in.
Well, I want the Utes to get up there and say, of course we are the preseason favorite. We are going to dominate this league. Get used to it. We're not going to be here for long because we're going to go on to some version of the Big Ten down the road. But while we're here, we are going to eat your lunch.
If Kyle Whittingham says that, lunch is on me. There's a 0% chance that's Kyle Whittingham's opening speech.
Well, we appreciate the respect, but, the polls, they don't really mean anything. You got to take it out on the field. You got to be able to do what you're supposed to do.
Welcome to the show, Kyle. Thanks for joining us once again.
It's all about blocking and tackling. You got to get the fundamentals of football, and we'll see what happens. But we like our chances, and if we stay healthy, and blah 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 blah.
Oh man,
yeah. I think that's probably what it's going to be. But it's a sign of respect, obviously. It's a sign of respect, but that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything beyond the sign of respect. And you don't have to worry about that. That's the cool thing with the playoff. You don't have to petition. You don't have to beg. Remember, wasn't it one year?
Well, some teams have to beg. Four conference champions don't have to beg. The other
right, so then just be that team.
Be that team, and then you're free of that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Then you'll be begging for the 3 seed.
You don't have to beg.
Then you'll be begging for the 3 seed. The 1 and 2 are probably going to be out of reach. They're going to go to the Big Ten and the SEC.
I'd be shocked if that didn't happen. They'll be. I think the Big 12 will be slotted as the 4 seed. But so what? Come on. If you want to win the thing, you're not going to backdoor it, and it's going to be fun because it's going to be historic, right? We talk about the BCS Busters and all that stuff, and that's recorded in history forever. And we remember the game, the butt kicking over Pittsburgh and the Fiesta Bowl, and blah blah blah. So this thing here, to be a part of this, you'll go down in history and take advantage of it, and everything aligns for them to be in the game in the Dallas area. The first weekend of December. There's just no question about that. You've got enough good quality players there, and you got 25-year-old Cam Rising doing his thing, and he's good, no doubt. He's a winner. Kid's a winner. The old man, I guess we can call him the old man's a winner now. And so we'll see, hopefully, knock on wood, he stays healthy and has that opportunity. But it would be cool. Whichever team wins it, that team was going to be cool to be part of the initial 12-team playoff, and it'll have an expansion and advancements and modifications down the road, but this will be the first one. But by no means is it a shoo-in that they win that game. I think if I were to bet, I will be, obviously, situation of being in Vegas, but I'm not going to bet. If I would bet on Utah being one of the representatives for sure, because you only have to finish second. And I don't see any way that they don't finish at least second, all things being equal. When you get on the field, they could have a slew of injuries, and so that could wreck it. So, but right now, we don't have that, right? So just taken for the sake of argument's sake, it should be there when you look at this, because and they start off, the non-conference doesn't really matter, but they should go 3-0 in the non-conference. And then Oklahoma State, followed by Arizona, Oklahoma State and Stillwater the next week, the Cats in Salt Lake, right? Well, then after that, you play one team that had a winning record last year, if I remember correctly, Iowa State. You can double-check my fact, but I think that's what it is. And everybody else is crummy. You're playing the teams at the bottom there. Houston, ASU, unfortunately for the Cougars, BYU. You got Baylor, but it's a non-conference game, but they were down at the bottom too.
Yep.
Obviously, that was a contracted series that they're allowing to play as a non-conference game. So to me, man, my gosh, things are there for you to take advantage of that. Now, once you get to that game, that's another story, because you're going to be playing a quality team. You're not going to be playing a team with a losing record if you should get to Dallas, right? So we understand that. And right now, to me, I would go with either Kansas State or Oklahoma State, see which one does it. So this is a great time. Football's just a month away from practice, although we still got several weeks before the first game. And it's a hot place to be, Las Vegas, Nevada, literally.
You mentioned Iowa State, and I am curious about Rocco Beck, their quarterback, because they had the gambling scandal. They started 1-2. They lose their quarterback. They got to play this freshman. Now, he was a redshirt freshman. He'd been in the program, and he really, he took off. He had a couple of 300-yard games. He threw it well against Texas in a loss. He threw it well against Oklahoma State in a win. And another year now as an experienced starter. How good is he? And they're kind of on the fringe of the race. They're not one of the 5 teams that got a first-place vote, but they are in the top half of the league. And college football is famously, unpredictable at times. Everybody knew Texas was going to be good last year, but Oklahoma State was really good, and nobody saw that coming. So is Iowa State this year Oklahoma State? And does he have another gear? Can he take another step forward? Because he's pretty good as a redshirt freshman. Maybe he really lights it up.
Could be. It's the same thing with Kansas State and Johnson. He's a youngster at quarterback there too. So that same logic that you applied for the Iowa State, you can throw it across the board there to Kansas State and see what happens. Oklahoma State and Arizona, the other 2 teams that we look to be in the mix, they've got veteran QBs, right? Bowman and Fajita, so those guys are expected to do well. Fajita's, to me, he could very well lead the league in passing for what that is worth. You want to lead the league in wins, and
that's always a good stat.
Yeah, Cam Rising, that's where he doesn't necessarily just stat you to death; he just beats you, and so find ways to win the ball game. That's what matters the most. But, yeah, there's a lot of intrigue there, and I can see your line of thinking with Iowa State because they had a nice season and why you would expect them to build upon it.
September was a struggle, but after that, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, October, November, and into their December bowl game. So he's doing a lot of stuff that Kyle Whittingham would raise an eyebrow and like, oh, really? 14 touchdowns, only 3 picks? You're talking my language.
And then I think there's going to be 1 or 2 teams at the bottom that on an individual Saturday can be tough, with BYU being one of them. In fact, I would say at least 2, if not 3, that have an opportunity.
You count Colorado as being at the bottom?
Colorado, yeah, I do. Colorado with their offense and with Sanders as the quarterback, they can put up points, right? I don't think there's any question about that. So, yes, I'm talking about 10 and below. Then you look at somebody like ASU. If they had a player, just a quarterback, not a tight end or a running back, they very well could have beat Washington and kept them out of everything that Washington was able to accomplish. They had the Huskies in Seattle right at the end on the ropes, and they're playing with they didn't have enough offensive linemen because they were so banged up. And this comes right from Morgan Scalley. I mean, he told me this, that they, instead of trying a field goal because they didn't think they could block the guys, they went for it, and it was like a 95-yard interception return. That was the difference, because Dillingham felt like their offensive line was so beat up. They didn't have guys who could block in the field goal situation, so they thought it was
pretty
less
minimal.
risky.
That's pretty minimal right there.
Right, but that's where they were.
Right.
That's where they were last year, and if that play doesn't happen, you can play the what-if game. I get all that. But the point being, they went into Seattle and played those guys super tough. So I don't think they'll be any worse than they were last year. And on a given Saturday, not across the 9 games, but on a given Saturday, or in this case they play the Utes on a Friday, but you get the point, any given week, they might be able to pull an upset that could make a difference in these standings. So, just because the Utes don't play a bunch of teams that were good last year doesn't mean that those teams this year on that given Saturday can beat you or can't beat you, because I think they possibly could. They're not going to be good enough to contend for first or second place, but any given week might be able to provide an upset that could make a difference.
That's true, but I do believe that one of these bottom 5 or 6 teams, is going to surprise us. And it happens in college football all the time. I mean, there's occasional league that doesn't have any surprise teams, but wasn't Arizona a surprise team in the Pac-12 last year? There's always somebody. There's always somebody jumping
like
up.
That, though. The Pac-12.
Okay, but it was Oklahoma State in the Big 12.
Yeah, but Oklahoma State, they were underestimated.
They were.
But that's just. But their program is really good.
It has.
So I can't really.
Been there a long time.
I can't consider them a big surprise team when they've done it 10 times.
And nonetheless, most of the media did, because look where they were in the preseason poll. And then 7-2, baby.
Okay, so the media.
Well, that's who we're looking at with the media preseason poll right now when we're talking about these 6 teams. It is the media. Whoop-de-doo. And they're going to miss on somebody.
You're looking at the poll. I'm looking at what's available to me knowledge-wise.
You don't think any of those teams can pop up?
Yes. Yes, but it's not based on a poll, no. But that's what I'm saying. To me, Oklahoma State has a pedigree. So somebody picked them somewhere in a poll. Okay, fine. But to me, Oklahoma State has a pedigree of being a really good football program, just like the Utes. The parallels are there with the coaching and a lot of other stuff. And if they have the running back and he's available to go, Gordon, he got a DUI, and how they handle that, they're going to be tough. But then they're expected to be tough this year. But yeah, there's going to be surprises. But the thing that I think to me, so if you were picked 10th and you finished 5th, all right, great. But that doesn't really necessarily influence the race. I'm looking for teams that provide a big-time upset that can make a difference in the race. I mean, it's good for that team if it's picked 10th or 11th and finishes 5th or 6th. That's nice. But they may not win those games. They may just beat the teams that stink.
And who does upset Utah or one of the Kansas schools or Arizona, Oklahoma State and change the race?
That's what I'm looking at, where it's just a one-shot deal. It's not sustainable for those teams.
If Oregon hadn't collapsed
if
Oregon hadn't collapsed in the second half against Oregon State, the Utes wouldn't have won a conference football title. So, all right, DJ and PK, 2 days of coverage, nonstop, Big 12 Media Days from Las Vegas, right here on The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Sean Dursey, he's going to be wearing the number 50 for the Utah Hockey Club.
I've said it a million times, and I'll keep saying it. The excitement from the fans and, from the state of Utah and everybody who wants to be a part of it has been off the charts. Something that really, really has me excited to be playing here. And you could just tell that this is a place that wants to have a team, love a team, and want the best for their team. And I think that's all you could ask for as a player, to have passionate fans who with you in the hard times, but will enjoy the sweet times so much more. So I think that part of it, and I know the feeling's mutual throughout the team. I think a lot of guys have thought the same thing and have kind of been going in that direction of, we want to win for these fans because they are so excited. They want to have a team here. They're going to love us. They're going to be passionate about us. You know what? We're so excited.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And now, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer's strong play of the weekend.
And Michael Chang, who came on after the goal as a sub, comes forward, leaves it for Luna. Luna volleys to himself. Luna! Diego Luna finishes, and it's 5-2. Diego Luna is having a night. There's the Chevy Strong play of the game. Know it this afternoon. After 3 o'clock, JJ and Alex will call for it, and you can win fabulous prizes. DJ PK, we are joined once again by John Woodbury from the Ultimate Sports Bash. And, John, you've lined up a very special guest. Very, very special. Britton Covey joining us right now. Britton, good morning.
Good morning, you guys. Good to be on with you.
You're a citizen of the world. Good to have you on, but where in the world are you coming on from? I know Friday or Saturday or both days you'll be at the Ultimate Sports Bash, but where are you right now?
A citizen of the world. I like that. I am currently in Utah. My wife and I, we have a townhouse here in Lehi, like every other young couple in the entire country. So here in Utah for about a week more before I go out for fall camp.
The citizen of the world reference, that's a Rick Majerus line from back in the day. I borrow that liberally these days.
Oh, I didn't know. I heard that he used to have all sorts of phrases written up on the whiteboard all the time.
I'm keeping a limited list out of all the possibilities.
You can't say them all on the air.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What are you going to talk about the Sports Bash? Because you're going to be there Friday. You're going to be on a panel with Jaron Hall, I think, from 2 to 3.
Yes, sir. I'm pumped, and I wanted to thank you, John. I'm excited. It's fun to have an excuse to get together with other athletes, especially Jaron, because we golf together, and I like to trash talk him. Somebody, please, in the Q&A, ask if he's ever beaten me in golf. I just want to see his face.
It sounds like that answer is good for you.
Exactly. But, he did get me his senior year at BYU, so I'll give him some credit there. But no, I'm excited. I love opportunities like this, and I love specifically Q&A because people always have the most interesting and funny questions. Everybody wants to hear the tea and ask questions about Coach Witt. And now everybody, if there are girls, they always want to ask me about the Kelsey brothers and Jason Kelsey. So I'm sure I'll get a few of those too.
Well, I'm excited to hear from you. I'm so grateful that you're going to be there. You're one of the first athletes we thought of when we started putting this together. We just knew that you had to be there, and everyone we talked to, they're so excited. Oh, Britton's going to be there? I'm there.
Well, that's good. I'm really glad you thought of me. Like I said, I love stuff like this. The state of Utah is so unique, especially after having been in the East Coast. The sports community here is so unique and so fun that I just love it. And I think probably part of the reason why people want me there is there's, everybody needs a 5'8", undersized white guy role model in sports so that they feel like they can live out their dream. That's most of the time when parents talk to me. It's because their kid's undersized. And, I relate to that. I had guys that I used to look up to. Obviously I played at Utah, but I grew up a BYU fan because my brother played at BYU, my dad, my uncles. And so I used to watch like Nate Mickle and those guys, and I always, any undersized white guy that looked like me in the mirror, probably balding, I looked up to. And so I like to kind of try and fill that role for any other kid in the state that can look up and try to fulfill a dream.
That's awesome. That's a big part of what we're doing is we want kids to be able to come and see themselves in successful people, in athletes that are doing what they love. We've got women that are playing tackle football that are going to be doing passing camps and just we want everyone to know that you can do this. You can enjoy it. You can love it. You can be good at it.
I am curious. Who was it that convinced you when you were watching them, if they can do it, I can do it? And how old were you when you thought, this is no longer a dream? I've got a plan. I'm going to pull this off.
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, like I said, Nate Mickle was probably the first one that I remember seeing my size, or undersized, that would do things that I got excited about. But I still to this day have a pair of gloves that Todd Watkins gave me when I was 7 years old. And so he came to a birthday party of my cousin's when I was 7 years old, and he threw the football with us. And I'm sure he has no recollection of that. But it was one of the best days of my life, right? And so just growing up watching those early teams, and then as I got older, watching Reggie Dunn at the U and kind of that returner position is kind of when I started to envision what I would see myself doing in college. But for a while, it was just being an absolute fan of those early BYU teams, Todd Watkins, Austin Collie, Matt Allen, all those guys. I was the biggest fan you've ever met. And then as I grew older and it started to become more of a reality for me, that's when, Reggie Dunn and Kalen Clay kind of, gave me a role model of what type of player I wanted to be.
When you say Reggie Dunn, I immediately think, it was more than a decade ago now, but I think of a ridiculous 42-35 game, and he ran a kickback to win the game, and Kyle Whittingham afterwards said, I can't for the life of me figure out why they kicked to Reggie Dunn. I thought it was one of the most honest post-game quotes. I'm like, why are they kicking it to him? And it was an electric return, and then I think of you in the Rose Bowl, and the comparisons are obvious.
Yeah, well, and Reggie's my guy. I mean, Reggie was one of my mentors coming in, and it's always interesting to me. Athletes, I feel like, go one of two ways when they leave college. They either get kind of bitter and they refuse to give the next generation credit, or it's the complete opposite, and they are so abundant. They want the next generation to be better than them. And I feel like that's something that's unique about the state is, it's everybody just wants the state of Utah to succeed and to, kind of be put on the map because we've got some great football around here, great sports in general. And I know that's not the case with a lot of people in other colleges. There's not this abundant mentality that you feel here, Kalen Clay, Reggie Dunn, all those guys who played the slot role, all they wanted was for me to be better than they were. And it carries over, that's what I want. But sometimes you watch these ESPN shows for the NBA and things, and you see the quote-unquote old heads, right, just refusing to give anyone credit in the next generation, just saying how they wouldn't have survived in the 80s or 90s and things. And I just feel like it's not good for the game, and I feel like it's so see-through and obvious that you're just not abundant, and anyone who gives the next generation credit and advice is someone that I appreciate so much.
Well, I know a lot of fans are going to appreciate you being there this weekend at the Ultimate Sports Bash. Your panel is Friday afternoon. And as far as you wanting a specific question posed so that you can embarrass Jaron, do you know who the moderator is when you're up there?
I have no idea who the moderator is, but moderation is fun, and I'm curious.
His name rhymes with Latrick Linehan.
No, really?
Yes. PK is the moderator.
I am. I'm pumped. That's what I'm talking about.
I think mission accomplished on needing a certain golf question posed. I think you took care of business early.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Britton, go ahead, PK.
I wake up trash talking, so I'm looking forward to this.
And golf trash talk is his best. He's way into the golf trash talk. He'll take you both on. He's ready to go. All right, Britton, we appreciate it. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you Friday afternoon at the Ultimate Sports Bash.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good. I'm excited to see you there. And thanks again, John. This is going to be awesome.
I'm so excited.
DJ and PK, the Ultimate Sports Bash, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tickets online at
ultimatesportsbash.com.
And at the door, but cheaper.
Cheaper at ultimatesportsbash.com.
There you go. All right, Friday and Saturday, Mountain America Expo Center, 9400 South and State Street in Sandy. DJ and PK at 97.5 The Zone. Catch 30 Seconds to Mars on the Seasons World Tour 2024 with special guest AFI as they make a stop at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on July 30th. Get your tickets now at livenation.com or listen to The Zone all day on Tuesday, July 23rd for your chance to win. PK, the Big 12 Media Days. It's a 2-day sports radio story. Couldn't be better. And, I mean, there's a lot to find out about as far as team and talent and breakout stars and talking to people who give you insight into what happened with the team. But never forget, this is entertainment. And who will entertain us? Who are the personalities? Who are the characters? Because so many teams are new, and there's the inevitable turnover, which has been accelerated by NIL. I'm sure you're going to come out of this and say, I didn't know player X for school 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Was that funny? There's no way I knew that going in. And there's so many entertaining, humorous things that happen through the course of these. And you basically have stories from every year doing this. Some of them off the air, some of them on the air. One of my favorites, I wasn't there when it happened, but you've told me about Jeff Tedford. Are you bleeping me? Another bleeping Salt Lake radio station. Awesome.
Yep.
There's nonstop, and it's a little sign into Jeff Tedford, and then also into, in some of these markets how important college football is, and in other markets how unimportant it is. I mean, when you're in the shadow of two NFL teams like Tedford was at that time, you get less attention.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I mean, overall, as a conference, that's the one thing I'm looking forward to as we get underway.
A lot of spotlight. Maybe University of Cincinnati is in the Bengals shadow, and University of Houston is in the Texans shadow. But there's a lot of teams who are the team in town.
Yeah, and the Devils, obviously, with the Cardinals.
Yep.
But, yeah, the Pac-12, when it first started, the Radio Row, as they use the term to borrow it from Super Bowl week, it was really big. And, you talk about Tedford and that we had 3 stations at the time down there, and which was in the L.A. area. They were doing it at movie studios for a good time, and then they moved it to a hotel the last couple of years. And there was each subsequent year less interest. And then you got to the point where they weren't sending radio stations, and what they were doing is they would just hire somebody. And when the locals came around, because everything was scheduled, like, for instance, the Arizona Sports in Phoenix, when the coach would come through and the players for the U of A and ASU, they'd have somebody sitting there in the booth, and he'd hand them a phone. And the host would be back in the Phoenix area, and they would interview him that way, right? Or guys would record. Well, then they end up stopping that to where you had to be live, and that really limited the amount of people that were sent there. You still had the not LA. You had good representation from Salt Lake. You had good representation from Portland and the state of Oregon, because they had 2 teams, and they don't have an NFL team. The closest one, 3 hours up the road, actually a little longer, from Corvallis and Eugene. I was thinking from Portland with the Seahawks and all. And so it really limited it, and it got watered down. We were still there, and we went 6-7 hours each day, and then they moved it to 1 day. And here you're going to have a ton more because there isn't that big-time NFL. So I think it's going to be a greater visibility thing. But at the same time, where does the Big 12 fit in? Now, for Big 12 media and folks, they're really interested. But are they taking a hit now? Because we sort of created a little bit of we've got a Power 4, but we think we got a 2-2. with the Big Ten and the SEC, and then the ACC and the Big 12. What does that mean when they get on the football field when they play each other? Because inevitably they'll play each other at some point in the season, in the postseason, and then, it's really on. Don't discount some of these teams from the Big 12 for sure. And then you look at, the overall strength of the conference. I'm not so sure that the Big 12 can hold its own when you go top to bottom, because these teams on the other conferences, their conferences tend to be really top-heavy. So all that's interesting. And then you're right, the characters. And a lot of it's going to be new for me. Which coaches are willing to show some personality. And then for me, too, and this is something that it's going to take a bit, but I had developed a little camaraderie with some of these coaches because they recognize my ugly mug. I've talked about David Shaw and a couple of these, Chris Peterson. He recognized us and felt comfortable, and he made that famous comment, the dumbest age group in America is American males from 18 to 22. And we played that. And then you had the loquacious Mike Leach, who loved to light up a crowd. And the one time in L.A., the person is so Leach is facing us, and the person's behind Leach giving like the home run signal that an umpire would give, where you take the index finger and you twirl it around. That means wrap it up. And the person gave it to me like 3 times and was starting to get an irritated look on his face because we weren't ending the thing with Leach. And finally, the 3rd time, I pointed to my mouth, which was closed, because Mike Leach was still talking, and I wasn't going to interrupt him, saying, "Sorry, Mike, you have to go on to the next booth."
Well, there are some big names. I don't know about big personalities because we haven't been around them, but Gus Malzahn, that's a pretty big name in college football. He's a coach at UCF. On the other hand, what do you know about Willie Fritz at Houston? Nothing?
That would be what is called my good friend Jack Squat.
Yeah, right. So there'll be a lot to figure out. And I do wonder how much media will be there. I mean, Vegas isn't exactly convenient. It's glamorous, and a lot of people want to go there, but from West Virginia and Cincinnati and Orlando, that's a long haul, and honestly, it's not that close to Texas. So I wonder how much media will be there and how much competition there will be. Also, we were told by multiple people who were there last year that it wasn't tremendously organized. I mean, you got to talk to everybody at the Pac-12 because it was very organized. And I was talking to somebody just in the last couple of days about this very thing. And I'm like, well, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado know how it's organized. And we'd been to BYU's media day in their independent area, and to set up a table and put someone's name on it and plant the player there for a specified amount of time, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. It's not complicated. BYU knows how to do that. They've done it. That's 5 of the 16 teams. Can they straighten this out? And the person let me go. And then they went, no. So I think it's going to be chaos again.
I think it'll be a little less. We've reached out to all the schools.
Hopefully that will help.
And, we certainly got BYU, Utah, and I think we'll be fine with the 2 Arizonas. I know people at ASU obviously should be able to do that, and it's an opportunity to sell your league. And why wouldn't you want to speak to Utah? We got recruits by the dozens, literally by the dozens. And why wouldn't you want to sell your program?
Yep.
Nothing in its own matters on its own, but everything matters.
And I'm curious if they want to talk to you, because how many of these schools want to recruit Utah? When you're Iowa State, you're just not sitting in a talent-rich area. And Matt Campbell's got a great rep. We don't have really any interaction with him here. This will be one of the first times. And I'll be curious and you can kind of take notes on this, what kind of traits does he have? What does he say that makes him overlap with Kyle Whittingham? Because they're both going to programs where you got to take the program to another level. And the assumption is these other brand name schools are going to win more. And yet you've caught everybody's eye. Now, he's obviously younger, but there's got to be something there. I'll be interested in what it is you walk away with after talking to him, assuming you get to talk to him one-on-one.
Yeah, and a lot of these coaches, they know how to sell it.
Sure.
You got to be able to talk.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you've got to be able to motivate.
Yeah. How else do you recruit those guys, and how do you reach them and keep them on campus once you've recruited them?
And you know where Gus Malzahn became a head coach for the first time, don't you?
A head coach for the first time. I do not.
At the college level.
I do not.
Oh, well, my backyard.
Which one of your backyards? That's the problem. Arkansas State?
Yes.
Yes! I was running through the options like, it wasn't ASU. I would know if it's ASU.
It is
it's
ASU.
Not one of the LA schools. Well, not that ASU.
It is an ASU.
It's an ASU. It's not the ASU. I just had this debate with somebody. Who was it? Who couldn't believe that I thought USC was USC when USC was obviously South Carolina and they had it first. And I'm like, you're South Carolina. They play Notre Dame and have Heisman Trophy winners. You're just not USC. We had George Rogers. Okay. Leave me alone.
Player?
He was.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to have that instant bond. How many guys have eaten at the mall?
Oh, you're going to drop that you did with Blake Anderson, too. You walk in, and did everyone turn and go left or right? And no one said anything, but everybody knew. And you're like, how did everyone know to turn? How did everyone know to turn and go left? Because we've been doing it for decades. That's why.
And then he said, oh, you've eaten at the mall? Well, we're family then. So, yes, I can go back to the Jonesboro days. I probably ran into Gus, and I didn't even know who he was at the time.
I wonder if he was golfing with no shoes and cut-off shorts.
And each with a 12-pack?
And each with a 12-pack in the card. And you're out there, your wife's visiting her grandma, and you're going to go kill time and play golf, and you get partnered up with these two, and like, well, this isn't exactly going to be like a round at Bonneville now, is it?
No, because I had brought the clubs. I said, okay, we'll go to Jonesboro, but part of the deal is I want to go over to Atlanta where I have a good friend, and we'll play golf with him. So that's why I had the clubs. And she said, okay, that's fair enough. So we went and spent some time in Atlanta after the Jonesboro, and I did go out in Jonesboro in like 95-degree heat, 95% humidity, and they paired me up with two guys, no shirts. They had sneakers, no socks, and cut-off jeans, and that was it. And they each had a 12-pack of beer, and I stood 30 yards behind them at all times.
Classic.
So I'm excited for it. It's college football. And
Gus wants that story. Gus Malzahn, he doesn't know it, but he wants that story.
He probably would laugh. He'd probably know what I was talking about. Now, he was only there one season. Arkansas State has had a lot of coaches that have only been there for one season have success. Yeah, he had been, prior to that, he'd been the OC at Auburn, gets the job at Arkansas State in 2012, and then the next year goes back to Auburn as the head coach. That's a fair amount of success. I mean, his overall head coaching record is 101-54. Obviously, I'm looking at it right now. I knew he coached at Arkansas State, but I wanted to see what year he coached at Arkansas State. And born in Irving, Texas, so he would like to get back there in UCF. That's going to be a tough trip for the Utes going after Thanksgiving, 2 days after a cross-country trip. To me, if I were the Utes, I would say I'd much rather play BYU because then we could have Thanksgiving at home and not have to worry about it every year because all we have to do is just bust down on Friday, and then every other year it would be home.
Well, maybe you can ask Kyle, but my guess is the TV networks wanted the Utah BYU game on another weekend.
Well, Kyle doesn't worry about that stuff, man.
Right, but he'd still know, and he will say we play them whenever they're on the schedule.
Yeah,
I look at the schedule and we play the next game.
There's not a question you could ask Kyle Whittingham, which experienced members of the media don't know what the answer is going to be at this point. You know what I mean?
It's pretty predictable.
Like, Coach, you've got a game Fridays. Is this going to change your schedule? No, we've been doing the same thing since 1904. I mean, don't ever ask him that. That's not going to happen. You know, and then that's the great part about the program is the consistency, the model therein, and what they do and how they do it and why they do it. That's clearly one of the pillars of the program is everybody knows. And I think that was part of the reason that they are going to promote Morgan Scalley when Kyle's said and done, is that, you know, he'll make some changes and so forth, but it's just the fact that he is going to keep a lot of the same stuff there, and hopefully for their sakes they have the same amount of success. And I did tell Morgan, I just said, hey, I just want you to know, buddy boy, when you take over, the softball questions are over.
Okay. DJ and PK, Big 12 Media Days, 2 days, nonstop. You're probably going to have to work. You're going to miss something, but wherever you get your podcasts, you can find whatever interviews you missed. There will be tons of content available online. DJ and PK, the Ultimate Sports Bash is coming up Friday and Saturday at the Mountain America Sports Expo. We're joined now by John Woodbury, who's helping organize it. And, John, we talked earlier that you were bringing in people who people may not know the name, but they know the play. And Stephen Wright joins us now, involved in a pretty famous play in NFL history. Stephen, good morning.
Hey. How you doing there? Is this Jake or who's this?
I'm DJ. DJ,
yes. Hello. Sorry about that.
That's okay. First off, for people who don't know what we're talking about Tony Dorsett's 99-yard touchdown run, Monday Night Football. The clip's on YouTube. And I had never really focused on what the right guard did until earlier this morning when I found out you were going to be on.
Yeah, it was my top experience in the NFL, also blocking for all of Bo Jackson's runs. But Tony Dorsett's, when I was a rookie, I'm on the kickoff return team. We fumbled the ball starting the third quarter in Minneapolis at the Metrodome. I've got 30 or 40 tickets there. My parents are all sitting in the end zone, my neighbors, buddies, everything else. I'm coming off the field, and the guy that plays right guard was also in the kickoff return team, and his shoe came off, and he couldn't get it back on. So my coach grabs me and pushes me back out there and take right guard. I about fainted. I run into the end zone, and thank God there was a timeout. And I'm standing in the Met where I grew up watching the games outside. And only 4 years before, Drew Pearson caught the Hail Mary, the famous Hail Mary, at the Met. And 4 years later, I'm standing in a huddle with all these guys. I was in 10th grade, not even dreaming of, getting where I was going to college. And all of a sudden, 4 years later, I'm standing in the huddle with Drew Pearson and Tony Dorsett and all these guys. And, yeah, the play was called between me and the center, and off goes Tony. And I was in for one play, and it went right into the Hall of Fame.
I think that one of the things people should want to talk to you about at the Sports Bash, obviously that play, right? And any Tony Dorsett, Bo Jackson story you have. But reading up on you, you're undrafted. And PK and I talk about this on the show all the time, that if you're undrafted in the NBA, you're a long shot. If you're undrafted in the NFL, there's plenty of guys who've been starters, made millions, gone to Pro Bowls, played for a decade, and you're one of them. You played into the 90s, and you were undrafted. Yeah. So all these parents coming out here who want their kid to be the next big thing, it's great if you're always the best player, but if you're not, there's still a path for you, and I suppose it comes down to work ethic. And who kept pushing and encouraging you at a time when maybe you didn't believe?
I've got a lot of tidbits, and most of them are in my book, Aggressively Human, but it was me. My parents for sure believed in me, but didn't pressure me at all. I just put pressure on myself, and the thing that I really state to everybody is stay in the present. Stay in this play, stay in this practice today. Like when I went in there, I was 3 free agents made it in 1981. And they went on to just great careers. But 3 of us out of 120 over the course of like 5 weeks got cut. And then on top of that, when I was a rookie going in, the number 1 and the number 3 pick, the 3 pick was from Brigham Young, Glenn Titensor from Brigham Young, and then Howard Richards was the number 1 pick. So 2 more young offensive linemen. And I was kept. I mean, that was the first time I think Dallas had ever kept 11 offensive linemen. And what was really kind of cool is when that guard lost his shoe and I'm coming off the field, my coach pushes me back out instead of the number 1 and the number 3 draft pick. They thought something of me. I was a fighter, and, those guys are too. I love them both. But, yeah, it was just a lot of pushing myself, staying present. And obviously, the old cliche, working your tail off. But there's all kinds of little tidbits that Mike Ditka gave me. He'd take me for what I called wisdom walks. And he'd say, Steve, he'd throw his arm around me, we'd go for a walk, and he'd say, everybody here has got the physical tools. It's from the shoulders up that's going to separate you. Deal with it. You're going to get your butt kicked today. This morning, you're going to get your butt kicked. Deal with it, figure it out fast, and move on. And so, I'm rooming, I don't know how much time I have here, but I had 5 roommates, and they all disappeared in about the first 3 weeks of training camp. So I was in the last couple of weeks by myself sitting in there. Those guys were always thinking about the San Francisco 49ers first preseason game. Well, I knew I wasn't going to be there. I was going to just try to make it through the morning and then the afternoon, because there was a redacted document next to the scale. It was just black Sharpies cutting that guy's name off. One other guy came from Northern Iowa, and he got cut, and I never saw him again. I still haven't seen him. They just disappear, and so I was just like, all I want to do is make it through the morning. And then I have lunch, and I go back and take a nap, before the afternoon practice. And I just say, all I got to do is make it through this afternoon and really work hard and be present at every play. And it paid off. And I owe a lot to that.
Well, it definitely paid off. I read you're living in Malibu now. So, it worked out for you.
Right after our talk here, there's been a swell here for the last 3 days, and the excitement level and the adrenaline just around the area just goes way up. My phone's blowing up with texts. How does it look? Because we live right on this amazing surf point. So as soon as we hang up, I'll be in the water. My wife's out there now. It's a beautiful place to live. Super quiet. But yeah, this is I feel pretty blessed, man.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll let you go. I don't want to stay between an athlete and a surfboard.
No,
so
I get all the time in the world, and I can't wait to get up there and have a lot of fun doing the Q&A, and I'll be working my booth and personalizing my book for everybody that wants one, and doing my own little Q&A there, and just having fun and roaming around, and yeah, it's going to be a ball. Look forward to it.
Last thing before you let you go, are you living in Malibu because your NFL career, or are you living in Malibu because you're the guy who came up with the cool mist fans on the bench and, that we see in every game in Miami in September is a guarantee?
Yeah. A little of both. I got out of that thing, sold to my partner just kind of at the right time, or actually a little past the right time, which normally happens. But it was a little thing. Again, stay present. All I did was want to cool our Raiders bench off. Then all of a sudden it was the NFL's. Then it was Hollywood Park where they keep all the horses. Then it was one thing after another. Then the team's moving. I incorporate my company. I landed 96 Summer Olympics. I was like, what? And then from there it really took off. I had them on aircraft carriers and at NASA and Dodger Stadium and restaurants and hotels and pools. And it's just our motto was, the good news is we got the job. Bad news is we got the job. You always say yes and figure it out later, but you always say yes because that opportunity will go. That's how I landed. That's how I landed the Survivor as well. I just said yes. I'd never seen the show. Lots of good stuff to talk about.
All right, they'll look for you at your booth. Stephen Wright joining us here. Thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Cheers. Look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.
All right. Ultimate Sports Bash. He was on Survivor. He played in the NFL. He blocked for Tony Dorsett on a 99-yard run. He's not the world's most interesting man, but he's a nominee. He's in the mix. And John Woodbury joining us. Where do people get tickets to the Ultimate Sports Bash at the Mountain American Expo Center Friday and Saturday?
UltimateSportsBash.com.
And you've got different prices?
We do. And there's a KSL discount, 25% off. We got family passes. We have individual passes for 1 day or 2 days. It's a 2-day event. There's a ton going on both Friday and Saturday.
So a $40 ticket down to $30, a $60 ticket down to $45, and so on. That's all the math I want to do on the air. That's all I can get. I got that much. All right, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Get your tickets online at
UltimateSportsBash.com.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G. It's what you want.
So I'm trying to get my phone to not call me Hans.
All right, try it again.
Don't call me Hans.
Okay, what should I call you?
Hans.
You'd like me to call you Hats. Is that right?
No. Hans.
You'd like me to call you Pants.
It's the dumbest thing. What is my name, Google?
Your name is Hans.
God! Stupid. Dumb thing. Could you call me Hans, Ned?
You'd like me to call you handsome. Is that right?
Well, it's better than Hans. Yeah.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it is time to get you slackers up to date on what you missed here. Tim Dolly Mazda Southtown bringing you the 9 a.m. Slacker Radio headlines. Find your new Mazda at the south end of the valley. Tim Dolly Mazda Southtown. That's Tim Dolly Mazda Southtown in Sandy. Football, basketball, we've been all over the place. Britton Covey earlier this morning talking about the ultimate sports bash. It's always good to hear Britton Covey. There's a guy who is fully present in the moment, living the dream, and yet there's this like, you know, this is going to sound stupid when I say this. You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Snoop Dogg. Because they both go through life, and when they're looking at you talking to, there's this knowing wink like, I shouldn't have it this good. I've really got it good. This is unbelievable. I'm going to enjoy this. And Britton Covey was like, he was talking about the next generation, and he was going right to what we talk about, the ex-athlete who bags on it. And it's like, come on, that's so transparent. It's like Britton, I don't know. It's weird. He's an old soul.
Which is why I would have thought you would have compared him to maybe like Sammy Davis Jr.
Funny, man. When he comes on and he says, yeah, like every other young couple, we got a townhouse in Lehigh, you just started cracking up right away.
It was a good line. It was funny.
It was a good line. All right, we talked a lot of Big 12 football this morning. Anticipation, Big 12 Media Days coming up. Number one person you want to talk to. You've been doing a lot of homework. You always do. You're reading up on all these teams. Who do you really want to talk to? Arizona's head coach about the Sun Devil rebuild.
ASU?
Yeah.
I talked to him last year just off to the side, and it was sort of a confidential conversation of the task ahead. And so I'll get an update on the task ahead, and he'll speak to me in real terms as he did last year. And the funny thing is that I was by Kyle when the sports information guy came over, former roommate of Paul Kirk's at Utah, and said it because we had set it up. And so I stand up and I'm talking to Kenny Dillingham, and right below us, still sitting at a table and talking to various members of the media, is Kyle. And Dillingham's keep pointing. That's what I want. I want what he did, what he's got, what he's built. And Kyle doesn't know this because his back is to him, and he's doing informal interviews with a group of probably writers, maybe a couple broadcasters, sitting at a lunch table, a round table. And Dillingham is talking about pointing, and he pointed to him like 3 or 4 times. And then we talked about some of the challenges that he has to face in the program. So, yeah, from a personal aspect, I don't know that that'll be broadcast, but I'll be looking forward to get an update as far as that goes, because he's an honest guy. At least to me, I think he felt like, well, I've known the sports information guy for 30 years. And so I think he told Kenny, hey, he's one of our own here. So, and he felt comfortable with me, even though it was his first time meeting me. And I'm an older-looking dude now, so you don't last in this business unless you know what you're doing, right? So people tend to feel a little more comfortable with me because in order just to survive in a dog-eat-dog business, you got to have some level of you know what you're doing, right? And just I'm interested just to get the feel and see what Yormark does. How does he mingle? How much does he glad hand? As far as that goes, you know what I mean? Because the other guys, some guys really know how to play it. And what does he do? Now, I've never met the guy, but listening to him talk, he seems to think that he thinks highly of himself, which is fine.
When you drop a line, the league really needed someone like me.
Yeah, right.
You must have a certain appreciation for your own skill set.
So how's he going to be able to how does he act around people, and as far as that goes? And then is Dion going to be there? He didn't show up last year. Now, he's got some serious health issues with his feet and toes and all that stuff, so that's not to be discounted. I mean, he's had amputations, right? I don't know how many, but I think he's had them.
Anybody who's ever had a foot problem has got to have a little empathy right there. You can take your feet for granted until they hurt with every step you take.
And every breath you...
Thank you, Sting.
Jeez. So is he going to be there? He wasn't there last year. All right. I think he had, was it some surgery or something? Certainly there was a valid reason. Well, maybe you can argue, wait a second, you can schedule it before or after, what have you. Is he going to be there? Because, when you think of Vegas as glitz and glamour, well, when you think of Dion as a player, glitz and glamour, but how much does that work as a coach? He was as an athlete, he was as entertaining as any athlete that we've ever seen in my lifetime. Right? Just from the entertainment factor, he knew how to entertain on the punt returns, the interceptions, just everything that he did.
High step into the end zone.
And that was fun.
It was. For multiple teams.
Yeah.
Saw him do it with the Falcons, saw him do it with the Niners, watched him do it with the Cowboys.
Right. You didn't have to be a fan of their teams. I wasn't a fan of their teams, but, man, he was fun to watch because he was what's going to happen next? And so is he going to be there? So I'm curious, is he going to be there, right? Just literally, is he going to be there? And how does that work going forward?
We talked some basketball with Steve Cleveland. Summer League is starting. We've been talking about what we want to see, the differences between Summer League basketball and quote-unquote real basketball. And expecting a big crowd tonight to watch these Jazz, the rookies and the second-year guys as well, and then in case of Walker Kessler, a third-year guy. Plenty of young guys. It's not very often you can say half the Jazz team is going to play in Summer League, but about half the team is going to play in Summer League.
That's good news and bad news as far as that goes, right?
If they had a bunch of 30-year-old all-stars, half the team wouldn't be playing.
Yeah, exactly. But I would expect lower bowl will be packed.
We will get to that. We've been getting tweets about that without even asking. And we will get to that very topic, the cost, what it's going to cost to get into tonight's game. That's next. Stay with us. Your feedback's on the way.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Question of the morning, what do you want to see from the Rooks in the Summer League? Sammy said honor, tradition, and spirit. That was funny. Thank you, Sammy. Jason says basketball. Thank you, Captain Obvious. And Lance says affordable tickets to take my family, not the $60 plus I'm seeing online. We got people debating this, PK, and I have to admit, I don't think either one of us has tracked down the availability of Summer League tickets, but from what I've gathered online, they are not, maybe Ben knows, he's at the back of the studio now. From what I gathered online, they are not opening the upper bowl, and the lower bowl is sold out, and the secondary market, there are people looking to capitalize and make a little bit of a profit. Capitalism is happening.
Yeah, that's good news and bad news, too, that the Summer League is drawing that much attention. But if you want to get tickets and you haven't gotten them, you're going to have to pay more. That's the bad news.
Historically, the second and third nights have been tickets been a little more available than the first night. I do remember other years where the first night sold out, but you could get in a day or two later. So we'll see.
Well,
the
good thing
holds.
about this year, that you will see players that will be on the roster if you go the second and third night. That's a fact. There's no question about that. And then you get to see the opposing teams, too, like Zach Baked Edie's supposed to be there, right?
All right. Let's go.
Yeah, that's something to watch.
The game will be on The Zone. It's on KJazz. It's on ESPN, so there are plenty of ways for you to track it if you're not in the building or watch it. DJ and PK, the Ultimate Sports Bash is coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, Mountain America Expo Center, 9400 South and State Street in Sandy. John Woodbury, helping put it together, is in studio with us, and Nick Rimando on the phone, the longtime RSL goalkeeper, will be making an appearance. Nick, good morning.
Morning. How you guys doing?
Good. Ready to go out and rub elbows with the masses?
I am. Saturday, my call time's at 12. I'll be there for a handful of hours, so looking forward to it.
I know one question you're going to get. That 2009 team won the title, and then the 2010 team has set records defensively. But this team is scoring goals at a record clip. who's the best? Who would win, Nick? And then Nick looks at him and says, I'm not going to pick against my own team, am I? You people really don't think I'm going to do that, do you?
RSL will win.
Oh, nice. Look at you. Are you running for office? Wow. Very political answer.
I'd vote for him this year.
Yeah, no, it's really fun to watch this year. Pablo has them running on all cylinders. The belief in the team, even just the feeling being in that stadium and from the fans. It's a real atmosphere. It's a great feeling. I feel like RSL is back and just looking forward to seeing how far we can go this year.
Now, I know you want to see them win, and you've got relationships. Pablo is from your era, your generation of players, and soccer is a very tight-knit world and all of that. But the goalkeeper in you, even though it's RSL scoring 5 goals 3 times, do you just cringe a little bit like, oh, holy cow?
No, it's great. And listen, I've gotten 5, 6 goals scored on me in a game, so it's not a great feeling. But when RSL's doing that on the other end, and it's us giving the beating, it's nice to see. And I'm not playing anymore, so I like to see goals go in, just not goals go against us.
I assume when you're at the Sports Bash and the fans are coming by talking to you, people are going to say, Nick, what can you do to fix the U.S. men's national team? So let's throw that out. Nick, what advice could you give to fix the U.S. men's national team?
Oh, man. I think everybody knows it was a disappointing summer from the players in the locker room to the coaching staff on that roster. We have the talent. I honestly don't know what to do. Is there a coaching change? Is there not? Is there commitment? Obviously, the red card hurt us against Panama. But just leading up to it, can we get better results? And we put ourselves in a position to play against, really, really good opponents, big-time opponents, and we didn't do well. So still 2 years to the World Cup. I'm trusting U.S. Soccer will figure it out. And if I had the answers, believe me, I would say something.
What are you doing with yourself these days? That's another question you're going to hear. Nick, what are you up to?
I'm coaching with the Real Monarchs, which has been fun. Fun so far. Trying to learn as much as I can on the coaching end. And then I have, a lot of effort going into Rise Athletics Foundation. We have a golf tournament coming up this Friday, and then a pickleball tournament on August 5th. We're putting in 2 street soccer courts in Centennial Park in the West Valley. Hopefully, that'll be opening up the end of July. So a lot of push going into the community, and trying to make soccer more accessible. Been busy with the family as well, and doing a little bit of traveling and coaching. So staying busy this year.
Excellent. Well, good to hear, and people look forward to seeing you Saturday. What's your call time again? Remind people when you'll be available so you can.
Yeah, I'll be there at 12 p.m. on the main stage for a Q&A, and then you'll have photo opportunities at 1 p.m. Then autograph session in the autograph zone, and then there's a VIP meet and greet in the VIP lounge at 3 p.m. So I'll be there, like I said, a handful of hours. Looking forward to meeting other athletes and fans, and should be a good time.
Excellent. All right, Nick, look forward to it this weekend. Thanks for joining us here on the radio, and look forward to seeing you out there Saturday.
Thank you. See you guys.
Nick Rimando, former RSL goalkeeper. Sports Bash, the ultimate Sports Bash. John Woodbury, you've been working on this for how long now? I mean, there was a goal to launch something like this before the pandemic. And then you put it on hold. So you're not working on it every day for 5 years, but it's a long-term plan.
About 8 years, actually.
8?
That
Okay.
it's kind of been percolating.
All right, here it is. People can get their tickets at
ultimatesportsbash.com.
Or at the door, but they're cheaper online.
They are.
And how do they get a discount?
They get a discount by typing the promo code KSL25.
How big a discount?
It's 25%.
Oh, so $40 ticket down to $30.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good one. KSL is a partner, and we appreciate it, and this is how we thank them.
All right, Ultimate Sports Bash, Friday and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, 94th South and State. Ben and Jake coming up next right here on The Zone.